Chapter 641. Yiqing Luo's arrival made the entire library pavilion fall into a state of silence. Many students' gazes were fixed on Yiqing Luo. There were groups of students who started to discuss about Three Springs sect's matters in hushed voices. Especially earlier, the news of Yiqing Qian being personally sent to the academy by Leng Fenging had already spread throughout the entire academy. Even Yiqing Luo was being pointed at. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about other people's views as she walked towards the direction of the second floor. But she had just stepped onto the first step when she heard someone smashing a book on the table. "Student Yiqing Luo, don't you know the rules?" "Qing Qian." Another timid voice was heard. Yiqing Luo turned her head and saw Yiqing Qian standing beside a wooden table in the magical beast category book section. Her pretty face was cold, as though she was purely reminding Yiqing Luo. And beside her were 5 to 6 high profound class female students and Lu Shuelan, who was staring at Yiqing Luo with a terrified expression. Vice President, towards those who don't abide by the academy's rules, how should the faculty council punish them? Yiqing Qian didn't see the fear in Lu Shuelan's eyes as she looked at Lu Shuelan with a smile. This was obviously directed at Yiqing Luo. This was indeed directed at Yiqing Luo. Qing Qian. Lu Shuelan's face turned slightly pale as her tone raised as she berated, "Student Yiqing Luo is a new student and seldom comes to the library pavilion, so naturally she doesn't know the rules here." Yiqing Qian's reputation was already in a mess during this holiday. No matter where she went, she was given the title of slut. But after she returned to the academy, she seemed to have changed into a different person. Totally not bothered about the others pointing fingers at her. Furthermore, she was so overbearing that even she couldn't suppress Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Qian's red lips were like flames as her bright smile was different from the usual gentle like water, but it was covered with a layer of threatening coldness. "Really? Then what Vice President means is, as long as you are a new student, you can casually violate the academy's rules." I don't mean it in that way." Lu Shuelan's throat choked, and under Yiqing Qian's gaze, her legs turned soft. What was going on? Why did Yiqing Qian suddenly become so gloomy? This pair of sisters from the Yi clan, each was weirder than the other. It's precisely because she's a new student and has violated the academy's rules once, so she should be punished as a warning to others. Yiqing Qian's voice grew colder and colder as she walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The students in the library didn't even dare to breathe loudly. He stared dumbfoundedly at the scene of the Yi sisters killing each other. They were all sighing silently in their hearts. Surely this Yiqing Qian couldn't have been driven crazy because her reputation was in a mess. Yiqing Qian was the White Lotus representative in everyone's hearts. His ferocious appearance was really hard to accept for a moment. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she stared at the lady who was walking nearer to her, as her slightly creased brows rose. "Elder sister is really free." The closer Yiqing Qian got, the clearer Yiqing Luo could see the faint black qi in her eyes. The dark force's energy was in Yiqing Qian's body. However, what made Yiqing Luo curious was, this dark force's power didn't seem to be the kind that controlled Yiqing Ling and Yuqi Ping. But it was obediently attached to Yiqing Qian's body. Instead it seemed like it had already merged into one with Yiqing Qian, becoming a power that Yiqing Qian could use. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo recalled the question she asked Leng Fenging. Yiqing Qian used the dark force and Leng Fenging as bait to cooperate with him. Chapter 642. Yiqing Qian's relationship with the dark forces, not simple. According to the rules of the library pavilion, other than the students from the high profound class and the class of gods who can enter the second level of the library pavilion, the students from the middle and lower classes can only read books on the first level of the library pavilion. Students like you, Devil class, you don't even have the qualifications to enter the library pavilion. Yiqing Jian raised her chin in disdain, as she spat out the rules of the library pavilion word by word. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as her long eyelashes fluttered, looking extremely innocent, but, I've already been to the second story of the library pavilion twice. Yiqing Qian's face instantly turned black. Indeed, Yiqing Luo had been to the second story of the library pavilion twice. However, that did not mean that she was qualified to go up to the second floor of the library pavilion. Instead, he was punished by the instructor to tidy up the library. But he had not expected this punishment to become Yiqing Luo's capital to flaunt her prowess. Yiqing Qian was so infuriated that the black qi in her eyes grew thicker, as her eyes were filled with hatred, except for special circumstances. Before you have obtained the qualification to enter the second story of the library pavilion, you barging in without permission is against the rules of the library pavilion. Towards Yiqing Luo, how could she not hate her? She was obviously the #1 beauty of the Three Springs City, the hope of the Three Springs sect, the goddess of the entire academy. Now, when everyone saw her, they would look at her with disdain. Behind her back, they kept pointing fingers at her and mocking her for being a slut. They mocked her for selling her body and herself in order to climb to a higher position. Obviously it was Leng Fenghua who seduced her first. It was Leng Fenghua who lied to her that he would marry her, give her the position of crown princess, and make her the future emperor-empress. Obviously, from the beginning to the end, she only had Leng Fenghua as a man. She and Leng Fengying were innocent. However, no one would believe her. In fact, as long as a man spoke to her or greeted her, people would stare at them and gossip about their illicit relationship. This feeling, who could stand it? Although the days when she wore a mask in the past were very tiring, however, no matter how tired he was in the past, his heart was content. She liked the feeling of people looking at her with admiration in their eyes. He liked the feeling of standing at the top of the clouds and being praised. But now, she had fallen from the clouds, into the abyss of hell, and could no longer climb back up. He was back to being himself and no longer had to wear a mask. But she wasn't happy. She couldn't accept it. There was a feeling of emptiness in his chest. All these were thanks to Yiqing Luo. It was Yiqing Luo who caused her to become like this. The more he thought about it, the more resentment he felt in his heart. Yiqing Qian couldn't help but raise her hand, as she fiercely slapped Yiqing Luo's calm and composed face. She wanted to destroy the face, the owner of the face. He wanted to dismember Yiqing Luo into 1,000 pieces, so that she would never be able to reincarnate. That intense hatred was naturally felt by Yiqing Luo. Her eyes overflowed with ridicule as she looked at Yiqing Qian's venomous eyes. When she raised her palm to swing towards her face, she directly raised her leg and kicked towards Yiqing Qian's chest. Yiqing Qian's action was totally subconscious, and by the time she reacted and tried to avoid it, a sharp pain had already spread from her chest and she was like a kite with a broken string, flying out directly. Her eyes were filled with shock. When she landed on the ground, she quickly slammed her palm against the ground. His body spun a few times in the air before he stabilized his footing. Chapter 643. The library pavilion's rules are set by you. Just because you say I don't have the right to enter doesn't mean I can't enter. Are you from the faculty council? Vice President Liu Dai didn't even say a word. What are you butting in for? Question after question, like a bombardment, smashed towards Yiqing Qian with a pitter-patter. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with ridicule as her lips curled upwards. You can't go up to the second story of the library pavilion, but I can go up without any obstruction. Do you believe me? Yiqing Qian clutched her chest. Yiqing Luo's kick was totally without any reservation. Yes. As a high-profound class student, even if Yiqing Qian wanted to go up to the second story of the library pavilion, she had to get the approval from the library pavilion's management and obtain the time certificate to enter the second story. She was in so much pain that her brows creased into a bundle, Her features were sinister as she stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. "I'd like to see how you're going to go up to the second story of the library pavilion." To go up to the second story of the library pavilion, one must get the library pavilion's management to open the door. Yiqing Luo, who didn't have the right to enter, how would the manager possibly open the door for her? "Want to make a bet?" Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Yiqing Qian's pupils contracted slightly. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, her heart suddenly stopped, somehow feeling that there seemed to be a trap. "Don't dare." Yiqing Luo sarcastically tugged her lips. "If you don't have the guts, then don't be a road-blocking dog." Saying that, Yiqing Luo turned around and walked towards the second story of the library pavilion. That sarcastic smile pricked Yiqing Qian's eyes. Her slender fingers clutched her sleeves tightly as her pretty face contorted. "All right. I'll bet with you." She absolutely didn't believe that Yiqing Luo had the right to enter the second story of the library pavilion. Who didn't know how to put on an act? Yiqing Luo, who had already stepped onto the second-story staircase, had a flash of astonishment in her eyes as she quickly regained her original calmness and insolence. This astonishment was coincidentally caught by Yiqing Qian. Indeed, she was putting on an act. She became even more complacent. "Say, how do you want to bet? This is the academy. If you want to bet money or something else, it will affect the atmosphere of the academy. Why don't you bet on something else?" A clear voice came from the crowd. A slender figure walked out from the mantra book area. "Xiao Yu." Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. Ever since the dormitory was destroyed, she and Lu Xiaoyu rarely met. Lu Xiaoyu swaggered over with a palm-sized pastry in her hand. As she chewed on the pastry, she said mischievously, "If Qing Luo enters the second story, then you will kneel down in front of everyone and crawl all the way to the door, shouting, 'Good sister, I'm wrong,' 3 times, how about that?" As soon as he said this, all the students in the library drew in a breath of cold air. This gamble, it was even more exciting than gambling. He was gambling with his pride. "Xiao Yu, wouldn't this bet date be too?" Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she quickly walked down the stairs and grabbed Lu Xiaoyu's arm. "I'm fine." Lu Xiaoyu waved her hand with a calm face. "I've just returned to the academy, so I need something happy to stimulate the students' passion for learning. Just treat it as entertainment. But, I'll bet." Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to finish stammering, Yiqing Jian had already opened her mouth. At this moment, Yiqing Jian had already determined that Yiqing Luo was putting on an act. She wanted Yiqing Luo to kneel down in front of everyone, and wanted Yiqing Luo to crawl out of the library pavilion's entrance. She wanted Yiqing Luo to not be able to lift her head up in front of everyone. Bet! 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 The surrounding students saw Yiqing Jian nodding her head without any hesitation, and this bet was so interesting, so they were all interested. All of them cheered with their arms raised. Chapter 644. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly, full of sarcasm. "I'm thinking for eldest sister's reputation." Her words paused, as though she had misspoken, as she covered her pink lips and shook her head. "I forgot. Eldest sister has no reputation to speak of." These words pierced Yiqing Qian's smile, as it froze on her face. Her fingers clenched tightly, as the veins on her forehead popped out. "Stop the nonsense. Are you going to bet or not? Eldest sister is already embarrassed enough, are you sure you want to bet so much?" Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, as she sneered at her. "Moreover, whether I go up to the second story of the library pavilion or not, has nothing to do with eldest sister." Yiqing Qian was pierced by Yiqing Luo's words, as her pretty face was covered with a layer of frost. The black qi in the depths of her beautiful eyes formed a whirlpool. "Student Yiqing Luo, this is the academy. I cannot protect you in front of so many students just because you're my sister. Yiqing Qian clenched her teeth fiercely. If you can go up without any obstruction, I will kneel down right now. Looked like Yiqing Qian had hardened her heart to embarrass Yiqing Luo in public. Yiqing Luo curled her lips in disdain as she scoffed, thinking of using the same method to ruin her reputation. Was it that easy? Even if her reputation was in a mess, and her temperament had a huge change, but this shell was still this shell. Her intelligence was still low. How many times had she suffered losses in her hands? But she still didn't know how to restrain herself. Not a single bit of improvement. Yiqing Luo didn't say anything more, as her lips hung an enchanting smile, as she turned around and walked up the stairs. All the students in the library pavilion had their gazes concentrated on Yiqing Luo. Seeing her step by step, she walked up to the entrance of the second story of the library pavilion and stopped. The door of the second story of the library pavilion was carved with numerous totems of books, and on the door handle hung a fist-sized lock. There were only 2 keys to open this lock. One was in the director's hand, and the other was in the library pavilion administrator's hand. Yiqing Qian's face was filled with an unconcealable smile. Without the key, how would Yiqing Luo enter? By the time the administrator discovered that all the students had created such a ruckus in the library pavilion, he would definitely throw the troublemaker, Yiqing Luo, out directly. By then, Yiqing Luo would kneel down and complete the bet. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. "Teacher, help me open the door to the second story." Yiqing Luo stood in front of the door and shouted. "Teacher." Who was it? The students looked left and right, puzzled. The meaning of teacher was different from the teacher. The headmaster was the one who taught and guided the students. As for teachers, it was to express the respect a student had for a certain elder in the academy. Who was this teacher he was referring to? Just as everyone was guessing, they heard a deafening voice that sounded like a great bell coming from afar. "He's here, he's here." Soon after, the librarian of the book collection pavilion walked over with big strides. That fierce face didn't have the usual irritation and anger. Manager. The students were astonished as they looked at the administrator, who had always had a bad temper and was always shouting at the slightest thing, walking towards Yiqing Luo. Then, the librarian smiled. "Student Yi, you came to the library to study as soon as you arrived. What a diligent child. What the hell?" This was definitely king hallucination. The fierce and hot-tempered administrator, actually smiled at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian's face instantly turned pale. She staggered backwards a few steps, but luckily she was supported by the high-profound class students in time. She had been tricked by Yiqing Luo again. The administrator's attitude was obviously on Yiqing Luo's side. Chapter 645. Abuse of Authority. The administrator's gaze shifted onto Yiqing Qian's face as his expression turned ferocious. "Great. Since you say I'm abusing my authority, then report me to the director right now." Yiqing Qian's ears were ringing from the booming voice. Her petite figure swayed slightly as she looked at Yiqing Luo and shook her head in disbelief. "Impossible, she's a waste-class devil-class student. She has no right to go to the second story of the library pavilion. Whether I have the right or not, it's not up to you to decide." The administrator took out the key and directly opened the door to the second story. "It's because there are meddlesome students like you, disturbing the other students from reading and discussing their assignments." After the door to the second story opened, the administrator's tall and sturdy body moved to one side as he smiled at Yiqing Luo. "Student Yi, go in first, don't let." He paused and gave a silly laugh. "Don't wait too long." Yiqing Luo's motive for going to the second story of the library pavilion was definitely to meet Ghost Doctor. The administrator naturally didn't dare to stop her. Even if this matter reached the director, he wasn't afraid. Ghost Doctor had personally acknowledged her as his disciple, so the director couldn't stop her. Ever since he knew that Yiqing Luo was Ghost Doctor's disciple, the administrator became more and more respectful towards her. Of course, there was also his fondness towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo had once saved his pair of eyes from Ghost Doctor's hands. Yiqing Luo was the first person who called him teacher. In Heavenly Academy, he had been managing the library pavilion for decades. Wasn't it his fondness towards the academy and his fondness towards these books which persisted till now? In his eyes, the students in the academy who entered the library pavilion were considered as his students. However, the Heavenly Academy had gathered elite students from all over the world. All of them had distinguished statuses and had been looking down on others since young. When they arrived at the library pavilion, no one paid any attention to him, only treating him as a librarian. It was to the extent that later on, the students who came to the library pavilion didn't pay any attention to him. As time went by, the administrator began to put on a ferocious expression to intimidate the students. But in this way, he had completely lost the students' respect towards him. "Thank you, teacher administrator." Yiqing Luo's smile turned gentle. She knew that right from the start, the administrator had noticed the conflict here. The administrator was probably here to dissuade them. After that, he heard her proposing a bet with Yiqing Qian and understood what she meant, so he purposely didn't appear. The administrator waved his hand. "It's nothing." The two of them exchanged words one after another, making the surrounding students keep on guessing the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the administrator. As for Yiqing Qian, her face was so pale that she almost collapsed onto the ground. The high profound class students who were supporting her let go of her upon seeing the administrator's appearance and fled from the crowd's attention. "Elder sister, I'm still waiting for you to kneel down, crawl to the library pavilion's entrance and shout, 'I'm wrong,' 3 times to me." Yiqing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest, as she gave an amused smile. This slut, sure enough, he was plotting against her. Yiqing Qian stared resentfully at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo and the administrator knew each other, so she could make the administrator abuse his power. But Yiqing Luo intentionally revealed that kind of expression to confuse her judgment. How could she possibly kneel? How could she possibly admit her mistake to Yiqing Luo? "Yo, elder sister, are you thinking of going back on your words?" Yiqing Luo's eyes blinked as her index finger pressed against her pink lips, as she nodded thoughtfully. "I had long guessed that elder sister would not admit it. After all, elder sister is used to lying." Chapter 646. The students all nodded their heads in agreement. Yiqing Qian was able to snatch her sister's fiancé and even seduce her sister's fiancé's biological brother. What face did she have? Overbearingly wanting to bet with Yiqing Luo. After she lost, she refused to admit to it and wanted to go back on her words. She was really invincible when one was shameless. The students' faces were filled with disdain as they looked at Yiqing Qian with disgust. This kind of improper 3 views matter, even if it was in the 21st century, was something that the world would not tolerate. Moreover, it was in Nirvana realm. Even if Yiqing Qian had Ling Fengying's protection, it was unable to change other people's impression of her. Disgust was disgust. Disgust was disgust. They seemed to have forgotten that the one who suggested the bet was Yiqing Luo. This point, no one would care about. How can we forget about it? Hasn't Master always taught us to be honest and trustworthy? Especially student Yiqing Qian is a high profound class student and is the academy's role model. If student Yiqing Qian were to take the lead and teach the other students how to be sore losers and turn hostile. Lu Xiaoyu gave a light humph as she used Yiqing Qian's original words to counter. If this were to spread to the faculty council or the director's ears, student Yiqing Qian would probably have to bear the responsibility. That's right. As a high profound class student, every action and action represents the high profound class, represents the Heavenly Academy. We low profound class students like to imitate the high profound class students' mannerisms and actions. Student Yiqing Qian is teaching us, what's called turning hostile and turning hostile. When I saw Yi Qingqian coming to the academy, I only thought that her face was extremely thick, but now I know that she totally has no face at all. One by one, the students chimed in passionately. Yi Qingqian's beautiful eyes turned gloomy as she clenched her fists so tightly that her fingers turned white and green veins popped out on her forehead. Lu Shuelon heard the students around her shouting intensely as her expression turned gloomy. Qingqian, you're her elder sister, so there's no need to kneel down. Just apologize to her. If these students were to continue making a ruckus, the high profound class's reputation would be completely ruined. Shut up. Yi Qingqian glanced at Lu Shuelon coldly as her eyes turned chilly. Lu Shuelon was shocked as a flash of astonishment flashed past her eyes. Yi Qingqian dared to shout at her. Ever since she became the substitute vice president of the faculty council, no one dared to speak loudly to her. Lu Shuelon's face instantly turned pale. Yi Qingqian. Say that again. Scram. Yi Qingqian's sinister facial features revealed a chilly intent as her murderous intent was revealed. Flicking her sleeves, she turned around and headed towards the direction of the library pavilion's entrance. She walked very fast, wanting to escape from this place where everyone was making fun of her and mocking her. Lu Shuelon was thoroughly enraged. Yi Qingqian's arrogance was simply a slap on her face. If she didn't teach Yi Qingqian a harsh lesson in front of everyone, wouldn't others think that she, the acting vice president, was easy to bully? Yi Qingqian. You dare to insult the staff of the faculty council. Now I will represent the faculty council to bring you to the faculty council and let you recall every rule of the Heavenly Academy. Lu Shuelon took quick steps forward and was just about to stop Yi Qingqian. But he heard Yi Qingqian suddenly moaning in pain as her knees fell heavily onto the ground. It was indeed heavy. When the surrounding students heard the sound of kneeling onto the ground, they all felt a pain in their knees. A heart-wrenching pain. Yi Qingqian's hands were propped up on the ground as her palms were rubbed till a bloody scar appeared. She was in so much pain that her face was filled with tears as her expression was sinister. Lu Shuelon was also stunned by this intense sound of kneeling onto the ground as she stood rooted to the ground, not knowing what to do as she looked at Yi Qingqian. Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 647. A cornered dog will jump over the wall, don't force me. That gaze, was filled with murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose as she gave a light smile. Then why don't you jump for me to take a look? You. Was she scolding her as a dog in a roundabout way? Yi Qingqian gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke as the black chi in her eyes continued to revolve around her pupils, gathering. Enough. You're making a ruckus in the library pavilion, what a scandal. Suddenly, an imposing voice was heard from the entrance of the library pavilion, filled with extreme coldness. The students' gazes followed the voice and saw two figures walking in from the entrance. The lady's figure was tall and slender. Her cold face was covered with frost, emitting an awe-inspiring aura. The man's figure was slender, beautiful and tall. That face was exquisite and refined, his expression so gentle as though water could be squeezed out of it. This kind of cultured elegance came from his bones. It wasn't the kind of gentleness that Ling Fengying showed on his face. The lady, Lu Shuiyu. The man, faculty council president, Si Yenmu. These two appeared at the same time, causing all the students to exclaim in shock. They were still young, their attention was too easily attracted by others, and their emotions were easily led by others. Just a second ago, they were still filled with righteous indignation, berating Yi Qingqian for being shameless, but the next second, they were already respectfully greeting Si Yenmu, the president of the faculty council. This mysterious and unfathomable, elusive Sir President. Today he actually took the initiative to appear in public. The students seemed as though they were injected with chicken blood, as they were extremely excited. President, sister. Lu Shuelon trembled when she saw the both of them walking in together, as she timidly shrunk to one side. Lu Shuayu didn't bother about Lu Shuelon, only using her icy cold gaze, sweeping past the crowd, finally falling onto Yiqing Luo. You again. Yo, isn't this vice president? Yiqing Luo's tone was filled with sarcasm. Lu Shuayu's cold eyes narrowed slightly. Yiqing Luo, the library pavilion is an important place for students to read and learn, not a place for you to be competitive. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed out. Vice President, this sentence, you should say to the person kneeling beside you. Lu Shuayu frowned, lowering her head to look at Yiqing Qian who was kneeling not too far away. Not knowing if it was because of anger or pain, Yiqing Qian's delicate body kept trembling. A few strands of her meticulously coiffed hair had become disheveled, sticking to her sweaty cheeks. He looked to be in an extremely sorry state. Lu Shuayu's face sunk as she walked over and bent down to help her up. As he helped her up, he shot a gloomy glare at Yiqing Luo, as though he was interrogating her. Vice President, don't worry. As for me, I'm broad-minded and magnanimous. I won't bicker with my elder sister. Yiqing Luo blinked her innocent eyes as she smiled charmingly. What's more, eldest sister has already knelt down to apologize, let's just forget about this matter. His words caused the corners of everyone's lips to twitch uncontrollably. Yiqing Qian almost spat out a mouthful of blood that was stuck in her throat. Calling her shameless. Who's the real shameless one here? It had reached the pinnacle of shamelessness, okay. Gambling is strictly prohibited in the academy. Lu Shuayu berated in a deep voice, this time, because you didn't gamble with money or anything overboard, the faculty council will not pursue further. But don't do it again. After all, she was the vice president for 5 years and her prestige was right there. The moment Lu Shuayu spoke, the entire library pavilion turned silent. Chapter 648. A series of arrangements were made in an orderly manner. After Yiqing Qian was carried down, the atmosphere in the entire library pavilion was still chilly and a little scary. Yiqing Luo remained calm and unruffled as she squinted her eyes, as her back leaned against the second story's door, as she shot a glance at Lu Shuayu. This Lu Shuayu was indeed more suitable for this position than Lu Shuelon. This kind of domineering and dignified aura destined her to be a leader. Lu Shuyue was smart enough. After fighting with her a few times, Lu Shuayu had a rough idea of her character. He knew that at this time, he could not drag the matter onto her. Otherwise, it would be like a snowball, rolling bigger and bigger. So when Lu Shuayu interfered in this matter, it was a series of preaching, every single word and sentence was reasonable, and she didn't intentionally target Yiqing Luo. Not only had she minimized the matter, she had also successfully covered up the matter of Yiqing Qian refusing to acknowledge the bet. You want to say that Yiqing Qian can't afford to lose? Didn't he kneel? As for why he didn't crawl to the door and shout, "My dear sister, I was wrong," it was because Lu Shuayu had arrived in time to resolve this farce. If she were to stop Lu Shuayu and not let Yiqing Qian leave. If this matter were to spread to the other students' ears, it would only make them feel that Yiqing Luo was overbearing, forcing their own eldest sister to kneel down in public. They might even feel that Yiqing Luo was narrow-minded and didn't know how to think for Three Springs sect. After all, Yiqing Qian was the daughter of the Three Springs sect. Wouldn't the Three Springs sect be even more humiliated? He had to admit that Lu Shuayu's move was very good. What are you still doing here? Lu Shuayu glared at the students around her. As soon as he finished speaking, the students immediately dispersed. Lu Xiaoyu also left under Yiqing Luo's hint, turning back every 3 steps. Only the few of them were left at the top of the stairs. Lu Shuayu frowned and turned her head to look at her younger sister, whose face was pale and whose eyes were filled with fear. Shuelon, you. She paused and sighed helplessly. Elder sister, I didn't do it on purpose. Lu Xuelon lowered her head. She had always been afraid of her elder sister. Lu Xueyu was too outstanding. She was so outstanding that the entire Lu family only had eyes for Lu Shuyue. Ever since she was young, Lu Xuelon had grown up under Lu Xueyu's shadow. She was afraid of the powerful Lu Xueyu and hated the powerful Lu Xueyu. Acting Vice President, I have already discussed it with the elders. Thank you for your hard work for the time being. Si Yenmu, who had been silent the whole time, said with a warm smile. Lu Xuelan's body slightly swayed, and her face instantly became deathly pale. This is, removing her from her position as acting vice president. This is, did he intend to make Lu Xueyu the vice president again? Then what was all the hard work she had put in these past few days? In fact, everyone knew very well in their hearts. Lu Xueyu and Si Yenmu appeared together in public. What did it indicate? It was obvious. However, Lu Xuelon still couldn't accept this news when she heard it. Little sister, you've worked hard. Lu Xueyu gently hugged Lu Xuelan's shoulder and patted it. Lu Xuelan's body trembled. She raised her eyes to look at Lu Xueyu and suddenly chuckled. She pushed Lu Xueyu away and ran out of the library. Yiqing Luo kept a teasing smile on her face as she stared at them. Looked like it wasn't only her Yi family's brothers and sisters who had hidden turbulence. The other families were the same. Student Yiqing Luo, in future, please continue to take care of me. Lu Xueyu met Yiqing Luo's gaze as her red lips were dyed with a smile. Chapter 649. The minute she stepped onto the second story of the library pavilion, the door was shut. Yiqing Luo walked directly into the pill refining room. Pushing the door open, Zhang Xian walked into the pill refinery and looked around. It was a mess, as if someone had ransacked the place. She didn't see Ghost Doctor anywhere. Yiqing Luo had nothing else to do, so she rolled up her sleeves and started to tidy up the pill refining room. Gradually, she had already sorted out a pattern and the movements of her hands became faster and faster. Towards these medicinal herbs in the pill refining room, she was able to accurately call out their names, as well as their effects and where they were grown. Just 1 hour later, the entire pill refining room had once again regained its tidy and clean look. Ghost Doctor had not returned yet. Yiqing Luo guessed that Ghost Doctor might be refining pills in the secret room. Refining a pill was indeed a matter that required a lot of mental and physical effort. She found a few books on concocting medicine on the bookshelf and started to read. Profound Ice Immortal Root and Yin Infant Grass had already been taken away by her, so she could start refining the pill for Ziling that lass's legs. Thinking of that lass, she hadn't had the chance to meet her when she returned to the Yi family during the holidays, so she wondered how she was doing now. Yiqing Luo thought of Ziling limping as she walked towards her step by step, as she hid the complicated emotions in her eyes and buried her head to read the books. For Ziling, she must achieve 100% success rate. Unknowingly, time flew past. Yiqing Luo had already finished reading 2 pill refining books and was preparing to take the 3rd book when she heard the pill refining room's door being pushed open. Senior Ghost Doctor. Yiqing Luo smiled as she turned back to greet him. But she heard a sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground. Ghost Doctor leaned against the wall as he sat on the ground. That white robe fluttered and his right sleeve was already stained with blood. Yiqing Luo immediately put down the book in her hands and walked over in quick steps. Senior Ghost Doctor. Close the door. Ghost Doctor's pale old face was drained of blood. He leaned against the wall and shifted to the side, revealing the half-open door. His right sleeve followed his movement and started to ooze more blood. Yiqing Luo speedily closed the door and used one hand to support Ghost Doctor's body from the left side, supporting him to the table to lie down. Yiqing Luo's expression was solemn as she speedily tapped on Ghost Doctor's acupoint twice, and after the blood stopped, she got up and walked to the other table. Soon, he came over with some gauze and some powder to stop the bleeding. Yiqing Luo buried her head and started treating Ghost Doctor's wound. The Ghost Doctor's shoulder had been pierced by a sharp weapon. His flesh had been flipped over, and his white bone could be seen. It looked extremely horrifying. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she had many questions in her mind, but she didn't open her mouth to ask. The Ghost Doctor herself was extremely powerful. There were probably less than 5 people in the entire West Continent who could injure the Ghost Doctor. Who could it be that could injure the Ghost Doctor? Ghost Doctor narrowed his old eyes as he stared deeply at Yiqing Luo. This little girl was indeed different from ordinary girls. When he first noticed her, it was because of her talent in alchemy and her outstanding memory that allowed her to complete his tasks in the shortest time possible. Of course, the main reason why he accepted her as a disciple was because of the teleportation secret technique she displayed. Now, he truly felt that it wasn't a bad idea to have a disciple by his side. This girl was too smart to ask questions that she shouldn't. She knew when to advance and when to retreat, and was sensible. Looking at the way she bandaged his wound and the way she applied the medicine, it was accurate and skilled. But moments later, after the acupoint was released, the bleeding from the wound had already stopped. "Senior Ghost Doctor, go change your clothes." Yiqing Luo kept the gauze and medicinal herbs. Chapter 650. Ghost Doctor slowly straightened his body. The long robe on him, as it was missing the right sleeve, looked extremely loose. He narrowed his eyes as he took a look at the bandage on his shoulder. This wound was bandaged very well, the medicine used and the dosage were extremely accurate. Not only did it speedily stop the bleeding, it also stopped the pain. As long as the range of movement wasn't too big, the wound on his shoulder didn't feel any bit of pain. He had taken in a disciple, what a treasure. Ghost Doctor went to the secret room to change his clothes, while Yiqing Luo cleaned up the messy table, as well as the blood stains on the ground. After she finished cleaning, she still hadn't seen Ghost Doctor return. Yiqing Luo frowned. Could it be that? Because of his shoulder injury, he couldn't even change his clothes. Just as she was about to ask Ghost Doctor if he needed any help, she saw Ghost Doctor, who had already changed into a loose white robe, walking out. He who had changed his clothes had his hair combed again. Other than his slightly pale complexion, he looked much more spirited. "Senior Ghost Doctor, can I enter?" Yiqing Luo pointed to the secret room. The secret room was Ghost Doctor's secret base. It was the place to refine pills. Other than the first time Yiqing Luo entered the secret room, after she accidentally fell down, she was forbidden from entering the secret room. After all, to an alchemist, the secret room to refine pills was an extremely important place. Ghost Doctor nodded his head slightly as he turned around and walked back. Yiqing Luo followed closely. After entering the secret room, Yiqing Luo didn't act like what Ghost Doctor had imagined, to borrow his pill furnace to refine pills. Instead, she walked directly to the side of the blood-stained robe which he had changed out of, as she bent down to pick up the robe. Following that, Yiqing Luo took a spark from the torch at the corner of the secret room, and burnt that robe. Ghost Doctor's pupils contracted slightly, as he went into a daze for a moment, as he concealed the deep thoughts in his eyes. This young lady was really meticulous in her thoughts. As though noticing Ghost Doctor's gaze, the young lady who was burning the robe glanced sideways. As she smiled, Senior Ghost Doctor came back injured, and asked me to close the door of the pill refining room. Apparently you don't want anyone to know about your injury, or perhaps you're avoiding someone's eyes and ears. The young lady's clear sweet voice was gentle and melodious. This blood-stained shirt will expose the fact that you're injured. Burning it is the best way. Yiqing Luo watched as the white robe was burnt to ashes before she swept the ashes to the bottom of the cauldron and slowly stood up. You don't want to ask me. The ghost doctor looked curiously at the calm young girl. At this moment, the ghost doctor no longer had her usual coldness and impatience. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she replied calmly, to be able to hurt Senior Ghost Doctor, he must be someone whom I can't afford to offend. I'm not able to seek revenge for Senior Ghost Doctor, and will bring about a fatal disaster to myself, so I might as well not know anything at all. The more you know, the faster you die. Before she had enough power, even if she knew the person who had hurt the Ghost Doctor, and knew the grudge between the Ghost Doctor and that person, there was nothing she could do. What an interesting girl. The Ghost Doctor laughed as he shook his head. This smile tugged at the muscles on his shoulders, causing him to feel a faint pain. Little girl, you came to look for me as soon as you entered the academy. What's the matter? Perhaps it was because of his injury, or perhaps it was because of the change in his view towards Yiqing Luo, but the Ghost Doctor's expression faintly revealed some amiability. Yiqing Luo nodded. I want to ask, does Senior Ghost Doctor know? 10 years ago, the god thief who had once stormed the Nirvana realm, but had fallen in Death God Castle. Chapter 651. After Ghost Doctor saw her executing the blink movement, he recognized the blink movement's secret art at one glance and told her the origin of the blink movement's secret art. Whereas God Thief also recognized the blink movement's secret art at one glance. Yiqing Luo was clear that there was actually no connection between the two. But not knowing why, she somehow felt that Ghost Doctor and God Thief seemed to have the same emotions and feeling towards this blink movement's secret art. She wondered if it was a misperception. Yiqing Luo had her doubts, so she might as well ask Ghost Doctor directly. On hearing the two words, God Thief, Ghost Doctor's eyes flashed slightly as he replied without any hesitation, never heard of him. Yiqing Luo didn't ask any further. Ghost Doctor had never heard of God Thief's name before, which was very normal. Even Dmo Xian's reputation was just heard of, so it was imaginable how much of an otaku Ghost Doctor was. You know him. Ghost Doctor raised his white brows as he asked in reply, why did you think of asking me? Yiqing Luo shook her head as she played it down, 3 days of holiday. I heard of God Thief's name when I was training outside, so I just casually asked. Casually? Just because of this question, she specially came to the pill refining room to look for him. This was called casually. Just at this moment, the duo's expression suddenly changed. Yiqing Luo's ears twitched as she heard someone approaching the pill refining room's footsteps. Her expression was grave as she exchanged glances with Ghost Doctor, and her body had already speedily moved towards the entrance of the pill refining room as she dashed out, pressing the mechanism to seal the entrance. By the time Yiqing Luo stood by the table and picked up a stalk of medicinal herb, the pill refining room's door suddenly opened. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in astonishment as she saw 3 elderly dressed in elder robes standing at the entrance. Yiqing Luo recognized one of them. The leading elder was not anyone else, but Elder Yunxiang. As for the 2 elders behind him, Yiqing Luo had met them once before, so she didn't have a deep impression of them. Student Yiqing Luo. Yunxiang's vision swept around the pill refining room as his gaze fixed onto Yiqing Luo. Why are you here? This is my master's pill refining room, why can't I be here? Yiqing Luo put down the medicinal herb as her eyes narrowed. Where's Ghost Doctor? Yunxiang's expression sunk slightly. He had not expected this wretched lass to really become Ghost Doctor's disciple. Ghost Doctor's character was actually able to get along with Yiqing Luo peacefully. Just entered the secret alchemy room to refine a new medicinal pill. Yiqing Luo replied without any change in expression, is there anything the 3 elders need from my master? Refining pills. Yunxiang frowned and looked around suspiciously. He has always been in the pill refining room. When I arrived, Master was already in the medicine refining chamber. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as a sliver of impatience and vigilance surfaced on her face. Elder Yun Xiang has now set his sights on my master. Yun Xiang's expression became extremely ugly. Yiqing Luo intentionally wanted him to become enemies with Ghost Doctor, making use of Ghost Doctor's identity and status to deal with him. Yun Xiang clenched his fists and scoffed, "Don't talk nonsense. I was only ordered to check if all the teachers and staff have returned to the academy. Following orders. Investigate." Yiqing Luo's half-squinted eyes were flowing with light as it refracted a piercingly cold ray. Yun Xiang's orders, other than Great Elder Yun Rui, was the dean. It must be the headmaster's order to investigate the teachers and staff. Just a simple investigation only. Most probably, Ghost Doctor's injury was. I asked you to differentiate the medicinal herbs and you're making a ruckus. If you can't settle down, then scram out. A stern shout was heard from the secret alchemy room, and following that, the secret room's door suddenly opened. Ghost Doctor stood at the entrance with a sunken face as he berated impatiently. Chapter 652. Sir Ghost Doctor. When the three elders saw Ghost Doctor, their expressions immediately turned respectful. Ghost Doctor's face sunk as his expression turned extremely ugly. "Get out if you have anything to say. Don't disturb me while I'm refining pills." The three elders nodded their heads as they respectfully closed the door of the pill refining room. At the moment when the door closed, Yun Xiang's vision subtly glanced at Yiqing Luo, revealing a few probing looks. By the time the pill refining room regained its silence, Yiqing Luo turned her head to look at Ghost Doctor, who pretended that nothing had happened. Perhaps he had taken some pills, as his complexion was extremely normal, not as pale as before. There wasn't a single bit of blood stench on him. At this moment, Yiqing Luo was already certain that Ghost Doctor's injury had something to do with Director. Moreover, Director was starting to suspect Ghost Doctor. Didn't Director respect Ghost Doctor a lot? Otherwise he wouldn't specially set up a pill refining room for Ghost Doctor on the second story of the library pavilion. Between the two of them, what was their relationship? Suddenly, Yiqing Luo recalled the conversation between Director and a certain guardian not long ago. Recalling that Director wanted to silence her, but ultimately the main reason was because of Ghost Doctor's face, so he stopped. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly stopped. Isn't it said that it's best not to know anything? Ghost Doctor looked at Yiqing Luo's increasingly grave expression as he sighed softly. Yiqing Luo walked over and supported Ghost Doctor back to the pill refining room as she replied, "Whatever Senior Ghost Doctor does, he has his own reasons, so I won't make any guesses." "What did you call me?" Ghost Doctor's brows creased. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she pursed her lips. "Senior Ghost Doctor." Ghost Doctor seemed displeased. "How did those old men call me earlier?" Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she naturally understood Ghost Doctor's meaning. Ghost Doctor had sincerely accepted her and wanted to take her in as his disciple. Yiqing Luo admitted that she indeed wanted to learn more pill refining skills from Ghost Doctor. But she was unable to become Ghost Doctor's disciple. Unable to betray the master in her heart. In Yiqing Luo's heart, master could only be Old Man Tsang. When she came to this strange world, it was Old Man Tsang who helped her cleanse her marrows and bones. It was Old Man Tsang who taught her how to stand firm in this strange world. It was Old Man Tsang who taught her wholeheartedly that allowed her to live until now. Otherwise, she would not have rejected Guo Yu back then. Not willing. The Ghost Doctor's gaze darkened, her brows knitted together. The Ghost Doctor was astonished. Many students were racking their brains to become his disciples. Now that he took the initiative to accept Yiqing Luo as his disciple, he was rejected instead. He could tell that Yiqing Luo had innate talent in alchemy. He could tell that Yiqing Luo was interested in alchemy. As long as he trained her for a period of time, she would definitely surpass him. It was very likely that he would become a medicine immortal that surpassed the medicine sovereign. Senior Ghost Doctor, I'm very happy that you're willing to take me in as your disciple, because Senior Ghost Doctor has recognized my ability. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and explained, but... Senior Ghost Doctor, I'm sorry, I have no way. Lass. Old Man Song's voice suddenly resounded in her mind, hurriedly interrupting her words. This old man knows your intentions, but this kind of opportunity is hard to come by. Old Man Song loved this lass Yiqing Luo very much. He could feel Yiqing Luo's heart that respected him. If for him who didn't have a physical body and only had a strand of remnant soul, to sacrifice Yiqing Luo's future, he couldn't do it, and he couldn't bear to. Yiqing Luo was his hope, his salvation. Chapter 653. Old Man Song. Lass, I understand what you want to say. I'm already very satisfied that you have this intention. Old Man Song interrupted her words once again. Ever since you rejected Guiyu the last time, I've been thinking for a long time. I can't be so selfish. He who was just a remnant soul, most of the time when Yiqing Luo met with danger, he had no way to help her. Yiqing Luo needed other help. Ghost Doctor was not only an elder-grade alchemist, his own ability was also very strong. Moreover, Ghost Doctor was worthy of trust. Lass, listen to me. Moreover, even if you become his disciple, I'm still your senior master. Hearing Old Man Song's words, Yiqing Luo went into deep thoughts. Old Man Song's words, every word and sentence was filled with concern for her, every word and sentence was for her sake. Retracting her eyes and muttering to herself for a moment, Yiqing Luo raised her eyes after some time, as she met Ghost Doctor's probing gaze. Senior Ghost Doctor, I admit, I want to learn alchemy skills from you. I want to become a medicine sovereign alchemist. Yiqing Luo's voice was sincere and earnest, as her gaze towards Ghost Doctor had no intention of evading his gaze. I want to become Senior Ghost Doctor's disciple, but... Before this, I have to make it clear to Senior Ghost Doctor, I have a master before. Ghost Doctor's expression instantly darkened. You have a master. Who's your master? His voice paused as he seemed to have thought of something. Is it that fellow from the Imperial Palace? Yiqing Luo shook her head. He isn't around anymore. Not around. Hearing this tone, looking at this expression. Meaning, he was dead. Ghost Doctor's gloomy expression immediately resumed back to normal, as he stretched out his left hand to hold onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder, as he patted lightly. Then there's no problem, from now onwards, you're my direct disciple. Senior Ghost Doctor, you've misunderstood my meaning, my master isn't. I understand. Ghost Doctor's hand which patted her shoulder increased in strength, as Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased into a bundle in pain. Young lady, you must look towards the future, you're still so young, and you're a rare talent. Become my disciple, then you'll be able to unleash your potential. As she spoke, the Ghost Doctor's tone became urgent, and her face revealed a hint of impatience. Wasn't it just taking in a disciple? There was no need to go through so much trouble. Yiqing Luo was in so much pain that she grimaced in pain, as her ears kept ringing with urging voices. Master, master. Yiqing Luo twisted the fingers on her shoulder and gasped in pain. Master, can you let me go? Only then did the Ghost Doctor nod in satisfaction, and let go of her shoulders. I will impart to you everything related to refining elixirs without reservation. How much you can comprehend will depend on your comprehension. I'm injured. From today onwards, all the pills I need will be concocted by you. Following that, the next sentence made Yiqing Luo cough violently. Nanny. Let her refine it. Wasn't the Ghost Doctor thinking too highly of her? He had just taken him in as a disciple, and he hadn't even taught him anything yet, but he was already starting to refine pills. However, facing this master who would not go back on his words, Yiqing Luo could only helplessly agree. But other than the matter of refining elixirs, Yiqing Luo still had the last 5 days of freshman training, as well as Devil Class's unified training, and the interclass competitions training 8 months later. Yiqing Luo tried every means to persuade Ghost Doctor, and finally managed to convince him to spend 4 hours every afternoon to stay in the pill refining room, to listen to his guidance. Chapter 654. Otherwise the news of Ghost Doctor's injury would be exposed. After agreeing to Ghost Doctor's request, Yiqing Luo then found a chance to take out 2 stalks of medicinal herbs from the profound phoenix ring. Master, take a look at these 2 medicinal herbs. Profound ice immortal root. Infant grass. Ghost Doctor just took a glance and recognized what these 2 medicinal herbs were. These are medicinal herbs for treating bone injuries. I want to refine the bone healing pill. Bone healing pill. Ghost Doctor looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. You actually know about the bone healing pill? Bone healing pill. Not only was it a high-grade healing pill, moreover, it was an extremely rare pill. Even if ordinary alchemists had heard of the bone healing pill, they wouldn't know the method to refine this pill. There were only a few alchemists who were able to refine the bone healing pill. Yiqing Luo took out these 2 main medicinal herbs, which meant that she knew the formula of the bone healing pill. From Ghost Doctor's tone, Yiqing Luo knew that Ghost Doctor was clear about the method to refine the bone healing pill. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. She had seen this bone healing pill's formula in the 100-pill refining manual. She had memorized the medicinal herbs and the method to refine it. But if she really wanted to refine the bone healing pill, if she did it hastily, the rate of failure would be extremely high. And there was a possibility that because the alchemist was not mature enough, it would lead to the insufficient supply of profound jade heart and mental power during the refining process, resulting in a backlash. If it was light, the pill refining would fail and the medicinal herbs would be destroyed. If it was heavy, profound jade heart would shatter and the person would become a cripple. This was one of the reasons why Yiqing Luo hadn't started to refine the bone healing pill after she got hold of the 2 main medicinal herbs. If Ghost Doctor knew the method to refine the bone healing pill, with his help, the success rate of refining the bone healing pill would definitely increase. And she wouldn't need to worry about the backlash happening again. I have a very good sister. In order to protect me, she had a crippled leg and it wasn't treated in time. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers tightened. I've seen her leg, it's already been 7 to 8 years. 7 to 8 years. Such a long time, the bones have already formed. If I use acupuncture and bone healing pill, I have 70% confidence to turn her into a normal person. Yiqing Luo replied firmly. Ghost Doctor's eyes flashed past a glint of admiration. Looks like the disciple he accepted was not only a genius in alchemy, but also a genius in medical skills. From her tone, it was obvious that she knew acupuncture. Although they had only known each other for a short time, the Ghost Doctor still had some understanding of his little disciple's personality. If Yiqing Luo wasn't sure of it, she wouldn't casually speak up. Since she said it out loud, she must have been mentally prepared. You want me to help you refine the bone healing pill? Ghost Doctor's words had just ended when he saw Yiqing Luo shaking her head. Her eyes flashed with determination as her lips curled into a smile. All this while, she has been the one to suffer for my sake. I also want to do something for her. At least, I want to personally heal her leg. The Ghost Doctor was stunned. Then, he chuckled softly. Around the alchemist, the luminous pearls shone resplendently, shining on Yiqing Luo's body, appearing so tranquil and beautiful. The Ghost Doctor's usually cold and indifferent face gradually softened, and a hint of warmth appeared between his brows. Little girl, although this matter is a little troublesome, I am still your master. If you need any help from me, just tell me. Thank you, Master. Chapter 655. After coming out from the second story of the library pavilion, Yiqing Luo received the gazes of the other students. Everyone were guessing what was the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the library pavilion's administrator. She actually made the unreasonable administrator to allow her to enter the second story of the library pavilion. What was even more shocking was, this matter quickly spread throughout the entire academy, even to the ears of the elders' quarters and director. Everyone also saw with their own eyes that 3 elders went to the second story. However, Yiqing Luo didn't receive any punishment. As though it was a matter of course for Yiqing Luo to enter the second story of the library pavilion. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about those students' gazes, and didn't bother about those bold students who went up to ask for the reason, as she directly walked towards the direction of Devil class. Devil class's students were all seated in the classroom, excitedly discussing the feeling of these 3 days of experience learning. Long Yunjian and the others sat in the corner, smiling as they looked at the crowd. Have you realized that ever since Qing Luo came to Devil class, the entire atmosphere of Devil class seems to have come alive? Qiao Jin's back leaned against the wall, as his legs were placed on the wooden table. Yan Xiaoyi raised her hand and patted his thigh. Of course, Qing Luo taught everyone what a team is, what's called a companion. Everyone treated each other as their own kin who had gone through life and death together, so naturally the atmosphere is different from the past. In the past, under their control, the Devil class looked peaceful on the surface. But in the dark, all the students were competing with each other. They were secretly forming their own cliques, ostracizing those with weaker abilities. Whereas those with weaker abilities, in order not to let the team ostracize them, would ostracize those who were weaker than them. This kind of situation, as time went on, would make all the students feel alienated. Luckily, Yiqing Luo came early. Before the situation had completely deteriorated, she had saved these students. That's good. Long Yunjian, who had always been a man of few words, revealed a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. The few of them were astonished as they stared at Long Yunjian. Tong Ziqing sat in a row not too far away from them and could hear their conversation, as she could clearly see the smile on Long Yunjian's face. She pursed her lips and drooped her eyelids, enduring the sour feeling in her heart. A woman's intuition had always been accurate. Because of this, when Yiqing Luo just joined the Devil class, she tried her best to deal with Yiqing Luo. She knew that Long Yunjian liked Yiqing Luo. Who wouldn't like Yiqing Luo? Even she was unable to avoid Yiqing Luo's charm. He was supposed to hate Yiqing Luo. But, Yiqing Luo had a kind of magical power which made one unable to hate her. Sister Ziqing. A gentle woman's voice was heard. Ni Ruo sat cross-legged next to Tong Ziqing and placed her hand on Tong Ziqing's clenched fist. Tong Ziqing retracted her hand, and a trace of anger appeared on her cold and elegant face. Let go. Ni Ruo Pan shook her head. Sister Ziqing, don't show such an expression. Madam Qing Luo has the overlord. One day, you will definitely be able to use your sincerity to move the class monitor. Tong Ziqing liking Long Yunjian was never a secret in the Devil class. Ni Ruo Pan was most afraid that Tong Ziqing would dislike Yiqing Luo because of Long Yunjian. It wasn't easy for their class to become harmonious like a big family. Ni Ruo Pan didn't want to hurt this big family because of anything. Moved. Tong Ziqing burst out laughing. She had always thought that Long Yunjian didn't have a heart. Otherwise, it had been a whole 3 years. She had admired Long Yunjian for 3 years. But it wasn't able to warm up Long Yunjian's heart. Chapter 656. She wasn't as good as Yiqing Luo. This point, Tong Ziqing understood very well. She was unable to surpass Yiqing Luo, unable to become the kind of lady in Long Yunzhan's heart. She was unable to obtain Long Yunzhan's feelings. Sister Ziqing. Looking at Tong Ziqing's usually cold and arrogant eyes, revealing a pitiful look like an animal, Ni Ruopan's heart seemed to be touched fiercely. She held Tong Ziqing's hand tightly, as she gently hugged Tong Ziqing's shoulder. Don't worry, I've already acknowledged Yiqing Luo's position in Devil Class, so I will not treat her as an outsider for any reason. Tong Ziqing's brows creased, she didn't like this kind of pity. No. Ni Ruopan shook her head, I'm just feeling sorry for you, concerned about you. Tong Ziqing's petite body stiffened. She stared at Ni Ruopan for a long time, looking at Ni Ruopan's sincere gaze, a certain part of her heart suddenly softened. Look, this was Yiqing Luo's magical power. This student who was labeled as Devil Class's most useless and most cowardly, now dared to look straight into her eyes. What Yiqing Luo changed was not just a person, but a person's heart, a person's soul. Tong Ziqing gave a pft as she laughed out loud. What are you all chatting about, chatting so happily? Suddenly, a clear voice was heard from outside the classroom. Following that, a slender figure walked in. The bustling sounds in the classroom seemed to have pressed the stop button, as it stopped abruptly. Very quickly, the students' faces revealed joy. Madame Qing Luo. Yiqing Luo smiled as she walked to her seat, as she looked at Xiao Jin and the rest who were huddled together, seemingly chatting idly, as her slender brows rose slightly. So lazy on the first day after the holidays, you guys as the class committee, are really incompetent. Being forcefully squeezed by someone for 3 days, finally escaping from this kind of squeezing, of course I need to have a good rest. Xiao Jin glanced meaningfully at Yiqing Luo. You still have the energy to grumble, looks like you haven't squeezed enough. Don't my great aunt, I'm wrong all right. Xiao Jin immediately begged for mercy. Yan Xiaoyi raised her elbow, as she knocked Xiao Jin fiercely, as she stared at him angrily. Following that, he turned around and looked at Yiqing Luo worriedly. Why did you come over so late? I heard that you met Yiqing Qian at the academy's entrance. Everyone's expressions froze. After they entered the Devil Class, they had always stayed in the Devil Class. As for the matter of Yiqing Qian coming to the academy, they had never heard of it. Why is she still in the academy? Didn't he go to the fief with Ling Fenghua? Don't worry, just a hopping grasshopper, nothing important, don't worry. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, she didn't put Yiqing Qian in her eyes at all. Ling Fengying was an intelligent person. Even if Yiqing Qian wanted to borrow Ling Fengying's strength to deal with her, Ling Fengying would more or less consider it. Furthermore, if Yiqing Qian went overboard, Ling Fengying would also weigh the importance between her and Yiqing Qian. Losing Ling Fengying's protection, unless Yiqing Qian killed the West Continent's monarch and replaced him, otherwise she would probably have to return to her fief and become Consort Ping. Don't forget the purpose of our experience learning during this 3 days break, so you don't have any extra things to do. Yiqing Luo stood up. 8 months later in the interclass competition, you've promised me that you will get first place. The originally relaxed and cozy class instantly turned solemn. There's still 5 more days before my freshman training ends. After this, I will take part in your morning training. Yiqing Luo swiftly arranged the following matters. Chapter 657. MN, after your freshman training has ended, the few of us will take part in all the training. All of them had to take part in the interclass competition, even if they were extremely confident of their own abilities. But after all, there was always someone better out there. They knew how to hide their abilities and had buried themselves for several years. There were also others who hid their abilities, waiting for the final explosion. Moreover, and the class of gods, that mysterious and unfathomable class. They could not afford to lose this interclass competition. So any factors which might affect them had to be considered comprehensively and come up with a solution first. Even the few members of the class committee had to take part in the training. It could be seen that this interclass competition was much more difficult than imagined. The students immediately straightened their backs as they stood ramrod straight as they looked at Yiqing Luo and the others seriously. That's good too, with your participation, they will be more serious. For the next few days, the entire devil class was extremely busy. They went through training day and night. Especially in order to motivate and stimulate the students, Yiqing Luo integrated the academy's regulations and came up with a way to record points. For example, completing double the allocated training tasks to accumulate 1 point. For example, obtaining victory in the group battles through drawing lots would accumulate 1 point. Moreover, during the group battles, Long Yun Zhan and the others would also take part in drawing lots. What made the students collapse the most was they couldn't admit defeat just because they couldn't win the other party or not fight seriously. This was disrespect towards the opponent. If they were discovered to have not given it their all, then 1 point would be deducted. These points. It was the qualification for these students to take part in the mercenary group missions during the 3 days holiday every month. Students who had less than 50 points were not allowed to take part in the mercenary group missions. These students had obviously felt a huge increase in their abilities in these 3 days of experience learning. All of them wanted to take part in the mercenary group missions and wanted to go on missions together with Yiqing Luo and the others. Because of this, after the points regulations came out, the students' attitude towards training had increased. Most importantly, because of Long Yun Zhan and the others' participation, all the training exercises had increased by more than 2 times. Initially the students were struggling, but during this period of time, their bodies had been tortured to the point where they had an extremely strong ability to accept it. On the 3rd day, the students were already able to keep up with Long Yun Zhan and the others' training. But Yiqing Luo brought over the gravity belt and made them carry 50 kilograms of weight on their bodies to continue their training. The students were so miserable that they even wanted to die. All of them were so tired that they were about to vomit blood. However, Yiqing Luo totally had no intention of feeling heartache for them. He even summoned his battle pet, Shiju. He let Shiju sit at the side and supervise. If any student stopped before the training ended, Shiju would definitely not be polite and put on a show. It was a game of cat and mouse. Absolutely marvelous. As for Yiqing Luo these few days, it was. After the freshman training ended, Lingchen rushed to the medicine refining room to receive the ghost doctor's guidance and refine pills. Coming out from the pill refining room, he rushed to the devil class and trained together with the students of the devil class. After the training ended, he followed Long Yun Zhan to the spiritual Qi treasure land and entered the Azure Dew bracelet to train with Old Man Sang. Yiqing Luo was already eager to try the 2nd level of the Purgatory Tower. However, Old Man Sang still didn't agree to let her enter the 2nd floor to train. Although Yiqing Luo had already advanced to Mystic Profound 8th grade. However, this kind of leapfrogging 4 ranks in a row was an instantaneous increase in power. Chapter 658. These few days, as it was nearing the countdown to the freshman training, the 2 instructors' training was getting more and more torturous and difficult. And after the devastating training by the 2 instructors, these freshmen's temper had long been smoothed out. Facing any tasks assigned by the instructors, they would complete it without any hesitation. The freshmen also noticed the changes in their bodies after their training. Because of this, no matter how tough and tiring the training was, they didn't throw a tantrum. Very soon, it was the last day of the freshman training. Yiqing Luo arrived at the freshman training ground early in the morning and ran 2 rounds around the training ground alone before the freshmen started to arrive. After Lu Xiaoyu arrived, she followed behind Yiqing Luo and asked, "Qing Luo, after the freshman training ends, the time we have to meet will be even lesser." They were freshmen and the teachers would be stricter on them than the other students. There were endless things waiting for them every day and there was no time to meet up for a chat and so on. Moreover, ever since the holidays, Yiqing Luo was obviously busier than before. Learning is more important. When we have enough ability, the teachers will not be so strict. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up. "You better improve your ability in the intermediate profound class, and when this month's holiday is over, I'll bring you out for experience learning." Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. Yiqing Luo led the Imperial Palace's disciples to form a team and even went against the high profound class in the restaurant. Lu Xiaoyu, who was extremely concerned about Yiqing Luo, naturally heard about it. She heard that Yiqing Luo didn't forget to go out for experience learning with the team during the holidays, carrying out real combat training. Lu Xiaoyu's blood was boiling. On hearing that Yiqing Luo wanted to bring her along, Lu Xiaoyu kept nodding her head. "This is what you said, when the holidays are over, I will keep pestering you." The two of them chatted as they ran and the instructors also arrived. The freshmen stood in line and waited for the instructors to give instructions. 1 month of freshman training, today is the last day. Instructor Ho was expressionless as he said in a loud voice, "From tomorrow onwards, you don't need to come to the freshman training ground for training." None of the freshmen cheered or jumped for joy. They still stood quietly at the same spot, not making a sound. From the end of today's training, all of you will be official students of the Heavenly Academy. What awaits you will be a month of learning and training that is worse than death. I hope that all the students will continue to train every day after the freshman training ends. The two instructors spoke one after another, repeating the words that they would say every time the freshmen finished their training. Then, they entered the main topic. It's the last day of freshman training. I've discussed it with instructor He and decided to cancel today's training. We'll use a different method to end the freshman training. The corner of Instructor Chu's eyes twitched as he scanned through the freshmen. But his gaze was indistinctly fixed on Yiqing Luo. The freshmen will take turns to challenge either me or Instructor He. As long as you succeed in your challenge, today's training will be over. If you fail, you can also leave the training ground. Instructor Chu's words made the freshmen widen their eyes in shock. Challenging 2 instructors? How could they possibly succeed in the challenge? The other party was an extremely powerful instructor. Instructor Chu and Instructor He had already raised their hands, signaling the freshmen to disperse and empty the training ground. The instructors were serious. Chapter 659. Instructor Chu and Instructor Ho were the strictest and strongest instructors among the freshman instructors. Even Wu Fuzi from the high profound class was no match for the 2 instructors. Not to mention these freshmen. Challenge successful. What a joke. Everyone's vision subconsciously looked towards Yiqing Luo. Among the entire freshmen, only Yiqing Luo had the ability to challenge the instructors. At this moment, these freshmen seemed to have forgotten about it. This Yiqing Luo, in their eyes, was a waste student from the waste class. After hearing the challenge, Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu pushed to one side, leaving an empty space in the middle of the training ground. But she did not expect everyone's vision to be on her. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched, immediately her charming eyes curved. "I am a student of the devil class, I should be the last one." Such a strong reason, the freshmen were speechless. If Yiqing Luo was not up, then who? The freshmen looked at each other in dismay. No one was willing to be the first. They were not fools. Before they entered the Heavenly Academy, they had already inquired about the rules of the Heavenly Academy. Challenge the instructors and if they failed, they could leave the training ground. How could there be such a simple thing in the Heavenly Academy? Thinking about it, they had just been admitted to the academy on the second day and they had already started to accept the instructors' training. Although it was said to be training, it was actually an assessment. A class allocation assessment. Their results in those 3 days of training would be included in the overall results of the class allocation. Naturally, on the last day of the freshman training. Naturally, it would not be a simple challenge to the instructors. There was a high possibility that this challenge to the instructors would be included in one of their results. If their performance was too poor, it would pull down the overall results. These freshmen had a lot of tricks up their sleeve. Now that the instructors were full of energy, the first one to go up was simply seeking death. Why not wait for the other students to take turns, and after the instructors' energy was depleted, they could then go up? The freshmen all had the same thought. After pushing for some time, none of the freshmen took a step forward. The two instructors' faces sunk. Instructor Ho berated impatiently, "Where has this 1 month of training gone to? You don't have any guts and still want to become strong. Go home and ask your mother for a hug." Pfft. Yiqing Luo laughed out in an unkind manner. She couldn't be blamed for losing her composure. Instructor Ho's face was expressionless as he asked for a hug with a straight face. It was almost comical. Those students' faces turned red from what she said, and when they heard Yiqing Luo's laughter, they felt that Yiqing Luo was ridiculing them. The young and hot-blooded freshmen were proud and arrogant. How could they endure being looked down upon by others? Immediately, a student stood up. "I'll do it." In less than 30 minutes, there were already more than 20 students lying on the ground, crying out in pain. No one could last more than 5 moves against the instructor. When the instructor's fists and palm energy landed on the freshmen's bodies, they wouldn't hurt their internal organs, but they were in so much pain that they wished they were dead. There were already a few freshmen from the intermediate profound class, but none of them managed to gain any advantage from the instructors. There were also some new students from the low profound class who heard the cries of pain from the other new students. They were so scared that they shrank back and did not dare to step forward to challenge. Next, Instructor Ho stood in the middle of the training ground and glanced at the students around him gloomily. Although he was expressionless, the aura he emitted made people feel clearly. He was in a very bad mood. Could he be any better? Chapter 660. So what if your profound level is high and your physical fitness is strong? In the face of an attack, he would not make the first judgment and act rashly. He was full of openings. After training for a month, there was no improvement at all. It was worrying whether these students would be able to graduate. The students around them didn't move. They tried their best to hide behind the other freshmen. Instructor Ho frowned, seeing that there were still no students coming up. His vision fell onto Yiqing Luo. Instructor Chu also looked at Yiqing Luo. Among this batch of new students, the one they valued the most was Yiqing Luo. He wondered how this female student's combat skills were like. The other freshmen heaved a sigh of relief as they looked towards Yiqing Luo. His meaning was obvious. He hoped that Yiqing Luo would take the field. As long as Yiqing Luo took the field, she might be able to defeat the instructors and this freshman training session would come to an end. Although there was only a small chance of him winning, Lin Yun was not a match for Lin Yun. But, compared to anyone else present, Yiqing Luo's chances of winning was the biggest. Half of Yiqing Luo's body was leaning on Lu Xiaoyu, as she squinted her eyes, staring at Instructor Ho. Seeing their gazes converging on her, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly, but there wasn't a single trace of fluster on her face from being called out. On the contrary, when she opened her charming eyes, there were faint ripples in the depths of her eyes. He seemed extremely satisfied. "I'm a student of the devil class." Every word was spat out very clearly. "She's smiling." The other thoughts in his heart and the hope on his face were gradually replaced by anger. Shangguan Liuli's expression was sinister as she clenched her teeth tightly. Yiqing Luo, you're obviously afraid. You can't even beat the two instructors, so you're using the devil class as an excuse. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Did I say that I can beat the instructor? You! Shangguan Liuli clenched her fists. You coward! He didn't even dare to take the final challenge of the freshman training. Students from the trash class were trash. You really think so highly of yourself? The other freshmen nodded in agreement. Humph! How powerful did he think he was? I was just in the limelight during training, but you really want to take advantage of me. Aren't you very arrogant? Why did you back off when you challenged the instructor? If you really have the ability, then defeat the instructor. If you succeed, I'll kneel down and call you Grand Aunt. At this moment, the freshmen were extremely nervous and fearful. Especially when he thought about how he had subconsciously placed all his hopes on the trash of a trash class, he felt ashamed. He urgently needed an opening to vent the anger in his heart. Shangguan Liuli raised her head and all of them started to berate Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. Her curved, charming eyes, long and narrow with a demonic charm, outlined a strong sense of sarcasm. If you have the ability, go ahead. If you don't have the ability, then don't shut your mouths. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. Towards these freshmen's three views, she was slightly tipsy. Were these people sick in the head? She did not speak at all, nor did she show any expression. She was dragged into the flames of war. It was like getting shot while lying down. Yiqing Luo. You're the one who has no ability. You coward. Who do you think you are? How dare you tell us to shut up? You don't even have the courage to challenge us, yet you want us to shut up. The trash from the trash class is not only trash, but also lowly. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched a few times. Damn it. This student, have your three views been eaten by a dog? Who was the one with the lowly qualities? Instructor Ho couldn't bear it any longer and angrily rebuked, what's with all the noise? If you're unhappy, come straight to me. The freshman immediately kept quiet. Chapter 661. They must be sick. Lu Xiaoyu suppressed the urge to retort and whispered into Yiqing Luo's ear. If they have the ability, why don't they do it themselves? On one hand, they pin their hopes on you, on the other hand, they call you trash. They are really contradictory. Well, they definitely didn't take their medicine and were released. Yiqing Luo nodded in agreement. Let me try. Suddenly, a cold and calm voice came from the freshman. Immediately, a slender, handsome young man walked out. The young man looked indifferent and his attitude was neither servile nor overbearing. When he stood in front of Instructor Ho, he bowed his head slightly to show his respect. Qi Jing from High Profound Class 1. Male God Qi. Male God Qi. The freshmen were excited. In this batch of freshmen, there were only 2 students who entered the High Profound class. Qi Jing was one of them. They were also the 2 most powerful people in this batch of students. When the freshmen were cheering, they did not forget to glance at Yiqing Luo proudly. Oh, they still had Qi Jing. They didn't care about her at all. Yiqing Luo, who received this look, twitched her mouth again and was speechless. Challenger, Qi Jing. As soon as Instructor Ho's voice fell, the entire training ground fell into silence. All the freshmen held their breath and watched the battle nervously. If even Qi Jing couldn't withstand 5 moves, there was no hope for them at all. Qi Jing's expression became dignified and vigilantly laid out an offensive stance. Just as he was about to launch an attack, Instructor Ho raised his hand and made a pause gesture. Wait a minute. Immediately, Instructor Ho turned around and walked to Instructor Chu's side. For the next few rounds, Instructor Chu will accept your challenges. Qi Jing's face changed slightly as he frowned at Instructor Ho. After Instructor Ho glanced at him, he looked away casually. It seemed, changing the instructor to accept the challenge was just a whim. Qi Jing clenched his fists, took a deep breath and nodded in resignation. Yes. Instructor Chu, I'm sorry. With a greeting, Qi Jing quickly made his move. He didn't use his full strength, it was all to test Instructor Chu. His reflexes were also extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had already exchanged more than 10 moves. The freshmen widened their eyes in shock. There was actually a freshman who could withstand so many moves from the instructor and still wasn't done. Moreover, it was obvious that Qi Jing did not use his full strength. Qi Jing had hopes of defeating the instructor. The freshmen's hearts were in their throats as they stared at Qi Jing nervously. Shengguan Liuli's eyes sparkled as she stared complacently at Yiqing Luo. But she realized that Yiqing Luo didn't even look at her. Yiqing Luo stared intently at the two of them, hooked her arm around Lu Xiaoyu's shoulder and smiled. Qi Jing is very smart, Instructor Ho is very black-bellied. Ha! Lu Xiaoyu was confused. The reason why Qi Jing didn't challenge the instructor until now is to observe Instructor He's habits and strength. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win every battle. The fact that Qi Jing is on the stage means that he already has a way to defeat Instructor He, or he has concluded a way to restrain Instructor He. However, Instructor He is also an old fox. She could see Qi Jing's plan. Instructor Ho naturally saw it too. In the end, the instructor suggested that they take turns to challenge them, but it wasn't enough just to defeat them. But they wanted to sum up the strengths and weaknesses of the students in the sparring, so that the masters in their class could give strict guidance to one of them. Chapter 662. Qi Jing wanted to use the observation method to restrain Instructor Ho, but Instructor Ho didn't intend to let him try. Because of that, he deliberately let Instructor Chu, who hadn't been on the field, take over. Qi Jing's idea fell through. But Qi Jing was indeed a talent. Even if it was Instructor Chu, he would be able to readjust his steps in the shortest time possible. After testing Instructor Chu, he quickly calculated the most suitable way to deal with Instructor Chu. Yiqing Luo's heart, which wanted to dig out someone's heart, started to stir. Cough cough. It seemed that ever since the establishment of the World Mercenary Group, whenever she saw a talent, she would want to hook up with the World Group. Qi Jing is so powerful. Lu Xiaoyu nodded her head as she looked at the exchange of blows between Qi Jing and Instructor Chu with adoration. Their speed was extremely fast and their moves were getting sharper and sharper. Unknowingly, another 20 overblows had passed. As time went by, the other students also heard that today was the last day of freshman training, and they all wanted to know what methods the instructors would come up with to end this season's freshman training. The entire training ground was gradually surrounded by layers and layers of people. Almost there. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes and said indifferently, "What?" Lu Xiaoyu looked up at her in puzzlement. Yiqing Luo smiled mysteriously. Just at this moment, the students outside the field exclaimed, "Male god Qi, be careful." Qi Jing, who was facing off, had the upper hand. The next second, Instructor Chu's figure moved swiftly, and with a palm wind, he went up from Qi Jing's back. Just as Qi Jing was about to counter this palm wind, Instructor Chu's feet flashed and he flashed to the other side of Qi Jing, and his fist landed on Qi Jing's abdomen. Qi Jing immediately cried out in pain as he clutched his abdomen and half knelt on the ground. Lost. Qi Yijing lost. The clamor, which was still cheering for Qi Yijing, gradually died down. They actually lost. Obviously. Qi Yijing could have won. The freshmen at this moment were completely disheartened. They thought that Instructor Chu's ability was weaker and coincidentally it was Qi Yijing's challenge. Seeing that Qi Yijing had the upper hand after 30 overblows, they thought that they could win easily. But lost? Would they still have a chance to win? Jing. Dong Huanglang rushed over and helped Qi Yijing up. Are you okay? I'm fine. Qi Yijing covered his abdomen and stood up with the help of Dong Huanglang. He shook his head slowly and said, "You are indeed the instructor of the freshmen. I am convinced." Instructor Chu gently patted the wrinkles on his clothes. His face was calm, as if the battle just now did not affect him at all. Hearing Qi Yijing's words, he looked up and said, "Student Qi is a very talented student. If she is trained well, she will definitely become a great person." The students gasped and looked at Qi Yijing enviously. This was the second person to be praised by the cold-faced instructor. Although Qi Yijing had lost this battle, however, he was able to withstand more than 30 moves from Instructor Chu and was praised by Instructor Chu, so it was not considered a loss. Next, Instructor Chu raised his voice again. This time, it was Dong Huanglang's turn. He helped Qi Yijing to Yiqing Luo's side, walked to the front of Instructor Chu and bowed slightly. As soon as he attacked, Dong Huanglang's momentum was very fast. Different from Qi Yijing's step-by-step probing and pressing. He was completely the representative of, "Don't be afraid, fight directly." Such a strong attack had caught Instructor Chu off guard. This battle was also exciting and dangerous. Chapter 663. Qing Luo, how did you know that Qi Yijing would lose? Lu Xiaoyu finally understood what Yiqing Luo meant when she said, "almost done," earlier. He was referring to the fact that this battle was almost over. Lu Xiaoyu was very curious about how Yiqing Luo was able to analyze the psychological state of both parties so clearly as though she was a god. It was obvious that Qi Yijing had the upper hand, but Yiqing Luo knew that he would lose. Qi Yijing, who was staring at the battle between Dong Huanglang and Instructor Chu, also turned to look at them. Yiqing Luo held her chin and explained patiently. From the beginning, Instructor Chu was deliberately being modest. The reason why he let you challenge him is to understand your habits and strength. Once they understand clearly, they will end the battle quickly. Just like Qi Yijing's match. Yiqing Luo met Qi Yijing's gaze and said indifferently, "Instructor Chu has been fighting with you to see your potential. After getting the result, Instructor Chu will not waste any more time." It was not that Instructor Chu's ability was not good. It was Instructor Chu who used his own way to test Qi Yijing's potential. Qi Yijing nodded, indicating that he agreed with Yiqing Luo's words. And at this time, Dong Huanglang had also made more than 20 moves. At the last moment, he was knocked down to the ground and lost. The two freshmen who were allocated to the high profound class had lost. The last chance was gone. No, they still had a chance. "Luli, should we say something soft and let Yiqing Luo?" A female student whispered. Yiqing Luo's strength was very strong. At least from her recent performance, her strength was absolutely enough to be allocated to the high profound class. What soft words. Why are you looking for her? How can a waste be better than Qi Yijing and Dong Huanglang from the high profound class? Shengguan Luli shook off the female student's hand fiercely and berated her. But, no buts. Didn't you see that she has been evading, hiding, and not daring to come over? She is simply afraid, waiting for us to challenge the instructor and reap the benefits. Shangguan Liuli did not hesitate to interrupt the female student's words. No matter how powerful Yiqing Luo was, she was not as powerful as the instructor. What did she want from Yiqing Luo? She doesn't dare, but I dare. I'll challenge you. Shangguan Liuli snorted coldly and walked to the center of the training ground. Looking at the increasing number of students around her, Shangguan Liuli clenched her fists. If she could withstand at least 10 moves, it wouldn't be too embarrassing. Fortunately, Instructor Chu was the one who accepted the challenge. Seeing that Dong Huang and Qi Yijing could exchange 20 to 30 moves with Instructor Chu Chu's strength was definitely not as good as the other instructors. Thinking of this, Shangguan Liuli felt more confident. Attack! Attack! However, Shangguan Liuli had just condensed her qi and was about to make a move, but she found that Instructor Chu's figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. Shangguan Liuli was stunned. She quickly released her perception to search for Instructor Chu. Suddenly, he felt pain in his back. It was over before it even started. In less than a single move. The crowd was in an uproar. This was probably the worst challenge of the day. Those who had challenged previously and were assigned to the low profound class, the weakest among them had at least passed 2 moves. The other freshmen looked at Shangguan Liuli as if they were looking at an idiot. It was so silly that it made people laugh. The other freshmen were not nervous or afraid at this time. Anyway, with the 5th miss of the Shangguan family at the bottom, what was there for them to be afraid of? Chapter 664. 5th Miss Shangguan. One of the 4 great families, the 5th miss of the Shangguan family. It was not because they were weak, but because the instructor was too strong. The rest of the freshmen thanked Shangguan Liuli from the bottom of their hearts for giving them the courage to challenge the instructor fearlessly. Immediately, one by one, the freshmen began to challenge the instructor. After exchanging a few blows with the instructor, the freshmen retreated in defeat. The freshmen who were slightly more capable and slightly more talented, at most 6 or 7 moves. Qi Yijing narrowed his eyes and squinted in the direction of Shangguan Liuli. Instructor Chu is avenging you. The meaning of teaching Shangguan Liuli a lesson was too obvious. These freshmen, for the instructor, did not need a single move to knock them down in minutes. But the instructor wanted to understand the combat experience of these freshmen, so he must exchange a few moves to test the opponent's reaction ability and attack posture. But, Instructor Chu directly knocked Shangguan Liuli down. He did not give Shangguan Liuli a chance to fight back at all. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly and smiled charmingly. She had already given Instructor Chu 32 likes in her heart. Well done. Under her gaze, you can still smile, your heart is really big. Qi Yijing shook his head helplessly. Dong Huang nodded at the side. Yiqing Luo looked over curiously. She saw Shangguan Liuli, who was pale and trembling all over, not willing to leave even under the mocking gazes of the crowd, was now glaring at her with hatred in her eyes. Staring at her. Was there something wrong with her? She was not the one who instigated Instructor Chu. Damn, she was being implicated again. The 2 instructors took turns and after a while, except for Yiqing Luo, all the freshmen had finished their challenges. Without a doubt, all of them failed. Immediately, all the students' eyes were on Yiqing Luo. Waste of waste class. Now you are the only one left, still want to be a coward. Shangguan Liuli shouted angrily. She stayed here under the ridiculing eyes of the crowd, just to see Yiqing Luo become a laughing stock. Yiqing Luo seems to be a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator. So low profound grade. I thought she was at least in the mystic profound realm. She seems to be very powerful, even the vice president and Lu Shuelon suffered a loss in her hands. What's so great about it? If she was really powerful, she wouldn't have been assigned to the trash class. Moreover, I heard that she was attacked by an assassin in the academy some time ago. She fainted on the spot. Fainted from shock. TSK, no wonder he was assigned to the trash class. The surrounding students kept on pointing and gossiping about Yiqing Luo. Listening to the comments of the crowd, under her intentional or unintentional guidance, they all started to mock them. Shengguan Liuli raised her head proudly, a cold smile appearing on her face. The last one, Yiqing Luo. Instructor Chu stood in the middle of the training ground, staring straight at Yiqing Luo. Actually, in this round of assessment, they were most interested in Yiqing Luo. This freshman was neither arrogant nor rash, neither servile nor overbearing. No matter what it was, as long as it was right, she would complete the task without hesitation. Not only did he complete the mission, but he also did it very well. Even they, as instructors, might not be able to complete the training, but she could still grit her teeth and complete it. No matter how bitter or tired he was, he would never show it on his face. Moreover, there was something contagious about her. He could infect the people around him and cause them to change unknowingly. If they were to fight, what kind of surprise would this new student bring them? Chapter 665. Under everyone's attention, Yiqing Luo calmly passed through the crowd and walked to the center of the training ground. Her steps were light and her breathing was steady. There was no trace of apprehension or fear at all. That kind of indifference, that kind of calmness. Shengguan Liuli clenched her fists tightly, her round nails had already scratched her arm, but she didn't care, as if she was possessed, staring at Yiqing Luo with hatred. She hated everyone in the Yi family. Yiqing Qian, a broken flower with a bad reputation, had snatched away her beloved man. Yiqing Luo, just a waste who was despised by others, dared to make her lose face again and again, causing her status in the Shengguan family to plummet. At this time, everyone's attention was on the center of the training ground. Even Yiqing Luo didn't notice that behind the crowd, there was a wisp of black gas that was hard to be identified by the naked eye, like threads, intertwining with each other, forming a treacherous and incomprehensible totem. In a split second, it blended into the air and disappeared. Student Yiqing Luo, are you ready? Instructor Chu's eyes lit up with fighting spirit, his muscles tightened, ready to go. Yiqing Luo fearlessly looked into Instructor Chu's eyes and calmly hooked her lips, in order to avoid some people saying that my challenge is unfair. After all, Instructor Chu and Instructor Ho must be tired from fighting with hundreds of freshmen. She was implying something. All the students looked straight at Shengguan Liuli. They knew that some people, in Yiqing Luo's words, referred to Shengguan Liuli. Shengguan Liuli bit her lower lip, clutched her arm tightly and endured the anger and resentment in her heart. Immediately, they heard Yiqing Luo's sweet and calm voice. How about this, Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu, both of you come together. Silence, silence, and more silence. What followed was a gasp of cold air and an incredulous gasp. Was there something wrong with this freshman? Wasn't she too arrogant? You're too arrogant for your own good. This kind of arrogance could no longer be called self-confidence, but called stupidity. One instructor had already made hundreds of freshmen helpless. The only one who could withstand at most 30 moves from the instructor was Qi Yijing from the High Profound Class 1. No matter how strong Yiqing Luo was, she was merely a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator. It was impossible for him to be stronger than Qi Yijing and better than the instructor, right? Yiqing Luo, stop pretending to be a genius. You are a piece of trash. 2 instructors at the same time. Who do you think you are? Do you have this qualification? Shengguan Liuli instantly found an outlet to vent as she pointed at Yiqing Luo and started scolding her. Her eyes were filled with hatred, and her facial features gradually became distorted. I know, She laughed and looked at the two instructors, Instructor Chu, Instructor He. Don't be fooled by her. She did it on purpose. He was right. Yiqing Luo absolutely did it on purpose. Yiqing Luo didn't want to embarrass herself or become a laughingstock, so she deliberately provoked the two instructors. As long as the two instructors struck at the same time, even if Yiqing Luo lost, it would be a matter of course. Even if he lost, it was not shameful. Trash will always be trash, only knowing how to play tricks. Instructor Chu frowned and looked at Shengguan Liuli coldly. Student Shengguan, if you don't want to watch the challenge, leave the training ground now. The other students scratched their ears that were buzzing from the roar and nodded in agreement. They were here to watch the freshmen's assessment on the last day. To watch the challenge between the freshmen and the instructors. They were not here to listen to Shengguan Liuli's scolding. Chapter 666. Shengguan Liuli was frightened by the instructor's gaze and bit her lower lip, not daring to speak again. Hearing that the training ground had finally quietened down, Instructor Chu turned his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo, according to the rules of the student challenging the instructor, due to the disparity in strength between the two parties, no matter what request the student makes other than asking the instructor to go easy, the instructor will comply unconditionally. Everyone was stunned. Those freshmen who had challenged and were beaten to the ground immediately climbed up from the ground. They could raise conditions. In other words, if they wanted to use weapons, it was also possible. However, during the challenge, none of them made any requests. If they had weapons, against the empty-handed instructor, they would definitely be able to exchange a few more moves with the instructor and strive for a good result. The freshmen's hearts were filled with annoyance. Instructor Chu fixed his gaze on Yiqing Luo's eyes, as if trying to discern from her eyes whether what she said was true or just like what Shengguan Liuli said, it was just a pretense of challenging the two instructors to avoid a shameful ending. Yiqing Luo's expression was calm, her eyes were also calm. Instructor Chu looked at her for a long time and didn't see any hint of a joke. He turned his head and glanced at Instructor Ho from the corner of his eyes. Instructor Ho crossed his arms in front of his chest, his always indifferent eyes flashed with an interesting smile. She nodded her head in a very small manner. Student Yiqing Luo, that means, we have to accept the conditions you proposed. Instructor Chu confirmed again. Yiqing Luo's lips curved, her bright eyes shone with a flowing light. Her voice was sonorous and forceful, and the seriousness in her tone could be heard. I just want to test how much potential I have. Instructor Chu nodded. Well, since it is a request from student Yiqing Luo, Instructor Ho and I will meet your request. But, before that, you must first let me see if you have enough strength for Instructor Ho to take action. As soon as he finished his words, Instructor Chu had already made his move, waving his fist and pouncing towards Yiqing Luo. This punch held back some strength. It was purely a test. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, flipped her palms and wrapped her hands around the oncoming fist. He secretly used a skillful force to push the fist back. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's feet moved, her figure was like a ghost, quickly entangled behind Instructor Chu. With lightning speed, he grabbed Instructor Chu's neck. Instructor Chu's reaction was also extremely fast. Just as Yiqing Luo's wrist hooked around his neck, his large palm grabbed her slender arm. A woman's strength was naturally inferior to a man's. After Instructor Chu grabbed her arm tightly, he quickly bent down and pulled hard, directly flipping Yiqing Luo's delicate body from his back onto the ground. The surrounding students were shocked and looked at this scene in disbelief. In the blink of an eye, they were entangled together and had already exchanged several blows. Finally, when they saw Instructor Chu lifting up Yiqing Luo's delicate body, without the slightest bit of tenderness towards the fairer sex, their heartbeats accelerated and their hearts tightened nervously. Even the other students from the intermediate and high profound classes had never seen such an intense battle. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint, the two of them went back and forth. No one released their chi. What he relied on was his own skills. The moment Yiqing Luo was lifted up, the expression on her face turned extremely grave. She had indeed seen everything too simply. She didn't expect Instructor Chu to look so burly and tall, but his body was so nimble. Chapter 667. Yiqing Luo restrained the shock in her eyes and immediately reacted. Her body spun from Instructor Chu's back, and when she was in mid-air, her other hand slapped hard on Instructor Chu's back. Immediately after that, her foot stepped on Instructor Chu's back. The strength of this slap and kick was absolutely not small. Instructor Chu's face changed and he frowned in pain. This stunned him and gave Yiqing Luo a chance. Her petite body was like a butterfly as she leaped up gracefully. Her palms turned into eagle claws and went straight for Instructor Chu's back. After being kicked and slapped, Instructor Chu's reaction was still extremely fast. He did a back somersault and raised his fist to meet Yiqing Luo's claw-like hands. Bam! When the fist and the eagle claws met, there was a loud explosion. It seemed that the entire training ground was shaking. Everyone knew that this was their illusion. These two people did not display their profound chi. It was impossible to cause such a big sensation. It was just that, this kind of battle had deeply shaken their hearts. Actually, evenly matched. No one gained any advantage and no one was in a disadvantageous position. Instructor Chu was obviously more serious than when he accepted the challenge from the other hundreds of freshmen. Had Instructor Chu not used his full strength? Right. He must not have used his full strength. Otherwise, just based on Yiqing Luo alone, how could she exchange so many blows with Instructor Chu, and each blow was extremely fierce. It was completely like a real battle, the kind of battle that would not end until one party died. They subconsciously covered their hearts and a sense of nervousness filled their hearts. Instructor Chu's heart was also full of surprise at this time. From Yiqing Luo's counterattack skills and the fastest speed, she made the most intuitive counterattack. It could be seen that she had rich combat experience. And her reaction speed was also fast. She could completely take down the opponent in the shortest time possible. What made him curious was that this girl's information clearly showed that she had been a waste for 15 years and had an enviable profound jade heart. However, she had a waste physique that could not cultivate profound chi. In these 15 years, she had lived an extremely miserable life. How could she have such rich combat experience? How did he become so powerful in such a short period of time? Even with the guidance of the Overlord, it was impossible to transform a piece of trash into such a powerful being in just 1 month. There was only one possibility. Right from the start, Yiqing Luo had intentionally pretended that she was a waste. Actually, she was a genius from the very beginning. Otherwise, why would Three Springs Sect let Yiqing Luo become the young matriarch of Three Springs Sect the minute she was born? Even if she had been ridiculed and insulted for the past 15 years, the position of young sect master was still hers. With this in mind, Instructor Chu's confusion was instantly answered. This Yiqing Luo, he was indeed a talent. Instructor Chu, you can't be distracted when you're fighting. By the side of his ear, Yiqing Luo's sweet voice suddenly rang, with a hint of a smile. Immediately, Instructor Chu felt a sharp pain in his chest. His tall and burly body was forced to take a few steps back by the force. Finally, it hit the wall with a heavy thud. Just listening to that voice made his heart ache. The students were shocked. Yiqing Luo actually injured Instructor Chu. Did this mean that she had defeated Instructor Chu? That's impossible. Looking at the entire school, how many people could injure Instructor Chu in a one-on-one battle? Chapter 668. Little girl, your skills are not bad. Instructor Chu rubbed his chest that was hurting from the collision. His face revealed a kind of excited expression. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile, causing his usually ice-cold face to reveal the demonic charm of a mature man. All the female students present felt their heartbeats quicken. Yiqing Luo withdrew her hand. Her face did not reveal any expression, but just smiled lightly. Instructor Chu was distracted, so I succeeded. Good. Again. Instructor Chu's voice just fell and he rushed towards Yiqing Luo. This time, Instructor Chu's attack was obviously much fiercer and more ruthless. His eyes were no longer probing and exploring, but a kind of excitement that had not floated for a long time, and the kind of excitement of wanting to fight to the death. Yiqing Luo naturally felt it. In the battle between the two, Instructor Chu's attacks became faster and more ruthless. Yiqing Luo felt that it was difficult at the beginning of Instructor Chu's transformation. She gritted her teeth and quickly made adjustments, and with the fastest speed, she adjusted her state and countered Instructor Chu's attack one by one. I must be dreaming. I can't believe what I see. How could Yiqing Luo and Instructor Chu exchange so many moves? And look at Instructor Chu's expression, his eyes. Instructor Chu is obviously serious. But he is serious. Yiqing Luo can still fight to a draw with Instructor Chu. The surrounding students were amazed. At this time, how could these students not see it? The instructor had only used 1/10 of his strength when he fought against hundreds of freshmen. Now the instructor's eyes were sharp, his expression was dignified, and his face was solemn. The stronger students had already seen that although the instructor's battle with Yiqing Luo was not as long as his battle with Qi Yijing, but in a flash, the two had exchanged several moves. At this time, back and forth, they had exchanged hundreds of moves. Instructor Ho narrowed his eyes, carefully sizing up Yiqing Luo's every move. His eyes were full of satisfaction. This freshman was really powerful. No wonder she dared to ask him to fight with Instructor Chu together. She was indeed a freshman with strength and ample combat experience. He and Old Chu had been partners for many years. He knew better than anyone about the changes in Old Chu. This new student aroused Old Chu's fighting spirit. Old Chu's ruthlessness surprised him, but he did not go forward to stop it. Actually, in his heart, he also wanted to properly explore just how great this new student's potential was. What made Instructor Ho shocked and gratified was, Old Chu became increasingly ferocious. After being at a disadvantage for 10 moves, the freshman quickly adjusted his fighting style and counterattacked. It was like a spring. When encountering the weak, one would be weak. When encountering the strong, one would be strong. The more pressure Old Chu gave her, the faster Yiqing Luo's ability and hands improved. Simply, he was a freak. Instructor Ho's eyes flashed. Just as Instructor Chu and Yiqing Luo separated from each other again, his footsteps moved slightly and he was already behind Yiqing Luo, launching an attack. Instructor He, the students sucked in a breath of cold air. They did not expect Instructor He to join the battle at a time like this. Could it be that he was really planning to fight 1 against 2? Although this was Yiqing Luo's own request, but seeing that Yiqing Luo had a chance to win, Instructor He joined the battle. It was really unfair to Yiqing Luo. Instructor Ho's sudden participation and Yiqing Luo was still fighting against Instructor Chu. How could she react? Chapter 669. Yiqing Luo had just regained her footing when she felt a chill on her back. Her ears were filled with the students' panicked cries. Instructor Ho. Yiqing Luo knew that the person behind her was Instructor Ho. She didn't look back and it was too late. Just as Instructor Ho was about to attack, Yiqing Luo's body used an extremely strange posture and deftly avoided Instructor Ho's sneak attack. With a leap, she retreated 10 steps away from the two instructors. Yiqing Luo panted heavily and wiped the sweat on her forehead. Instructor Ho, it's a little hard for you to do this. Instructor Ho walked slowly to Instructor Chu and both of them looked at Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo, this is your request. She was indeed the one who suggested it. But she didn't say that she would accept a sneak attack. The cold sweat on Yiqing Luo's back had seeped into her uniform. She opened her mouth and exhaled heavily. Fortunately, her perceptive ability was higher than that of an ordinary person. The moment she sensed the danger, her body instinctively moved and quickly avoided Instructor Ho's sneak attack. Otherwise, if Instructor Ho's attack really fell on her, this challenge could be declared over. Student Yiqing Luo, let's see how long you can last this time. Instructor Ho's eyes flashed a meaningful smile. He and Instructor Chu looked at each other, one on the left and one on the right. They bounced up and directly rushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's expression was calm, without the slightest fear. She mustered up all her energy and began to deal with the two instructors. The two instructors were old partners and had a tacit understanding with each other. And as instructors, their own abilities were extremely powerful. Yiqing Luo's chances of winning against the two of them at the same time was not high. Of course, if the instructors used their profound qi, Yiqing Luo wouldn't have any chance at all. The instructors probably knew this too, so both of them used their own abilities and skills to attack Yiqing Luo. In the blink of an eye, Yiqing Luo had exchanged a few blows with the two instructors. Yiqing Luo gradually became strained under the two's attacks. The two instructors didn't show any mercy, they used their most agile skills and strongest physique. Especially the two of them, one attacking and one defending, had a tacit understanding with each other. Yiqing Luo couldn't find any chance to attack. Back and forth, Yiqing Luo could only barely defend herself from being defeated by the two instructors without any chance to counterattack. But Yiqing Luo didn't give up. This was also the reason why she asked the two instructors to go together. It wasn't because she thought that she was strong and impressive that she was intentionally provoking the instructor. Instead, everyone's potential was unleashed under pressure and coercion. Now that she had jumped 4 levels in a row and became a profound practitioner at the 8th level of the Mystic Profound Realm, even if she did not use profound energy, her overall strength would still increase. She challenged the two instructors because she wanted to see how much she had improved after her promotion. Just like now, under the immense pressure of the two instructors, she was able to quickly dodge the instructor's attack. Her brain was also working quickly, analyzing the instructor's attack and then counterattacking. This was very effective in increasing his combat experience. After exchanging more than 10 strokes, Yiqing Luo had already been pushed to the edge of the training ground. The students spontaneously opened up a path and watched this thrilling duel. All the students, no matter how much they hated Yiqing Luo previously, at this moment, they all started to worship her. The idea of the strong being respected was deeply rooted in their minds. Chapter 670. It was one thing to hate Yiqing Luo's character, but it was another thing to worship Yiqing Luo's strength. Yiqing Luo's back was pressed against the cold wall. She panted heavily, and sweat trickled down her forehead. Her hair, which was wet with sweat, clung to her face. By this time, she had exhausted all her energy. A woman's physical strength was not as good as a man's. Even the two instructors were panting and sweating profusely, not to mention Yiqing Luo. The two instructors were closing in on her. Yiqing Luo's slender body against the wall slowly tensed up. Her slender fingers curled up one by one and clenched into fists. She stared at the two instructors vigilantly, and when they were 2 steps away from her, she took a deep breath and curled her fingers into a claw shape and pinched Instructor Ho's shoulder. Enough. The two instructors stopped. Yiqing Luo's hand paused in mid-air for a while and slowly retracted. Her body, which was leaning against the wall, couldn't hold on any longer and fell softly to the ground. She looked up with sweat dripping down her face. Student Yiqing Luo's performance is extremely outstanding, it seems. Student Yiqing Luo is very good at practical combat. Instructor Chu was panting as he spoke. It could be seen that Instructor Chu was also exhausted by Yiqing Luo. The students covered their mouths and looked at them in astonishment. What kind of ending was this? Who won? Could it be a draw? When this thought flashed through their minds, the students shook their heads and felt that it was impossible. How could Yiqing Luo tie with the two instructors at the same time? You must be joking. What's more, Yiqing Luo was forced to lean against the wall and had no room to fight back. As long as the instructors moved their fingers slightly, Yiqing Luo would definitely lose. Why did the instructors stop? The students were puzzled. Student Yiqing Luo, in view of your excellent performance this time, Instructor Chu and I will apply to the director to let you enter the class of gods. Instructor Ho raised his hand and wiped the sweat off his face. Class of gods. His words stirred up waves. The students suddenly exploded. It was fine if it was the high profound class. Instructor Ho actually said. To let Yiqing Luo enter the class of gods. This news made those students who originally worshipped Yiqing Luo instantly turn from fans to haters. How could they feel the balance in their hearts? How could they be willing? No matter how valiant Yiqing Luo's skills were, it couldn't change the fact that she was merely a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator. The Academy's wooden identity token was absolutely unable to conceal any personal information. Although there were less than 20 students in the class of gods, every single one of them was a super genius among geniuses. Even the lowest profound rank was at the Earth profound 4th grade. Not only were there profound heart jades of the highest quality, even cultivating profound energy was a piece of cake for them. The class of gods was a legend in the Academy. It was a legend in the Academy. If it was the high profound class, then forget it. What right did Yiqing Luo have to enter the class of gods? Yiqing Luo was also shocked by Instructor Ho's words. Apply to enter the class of gods. Did the instructors discover her actual profound rank? That's not right. Even if they found out her actual profound rank, it was only Mystic Profound 8th grade, not enough to enter the class of gods. Cough. Instructor Ho, thank you for your kind intentions, but this is not necessary. Yiqing Luo had no intention to leave her brothers and sisters in the devil class. Compared to the class of gods, she felt that the students in the devil class were more talented. You're not willing to enter the class of gods. Instructor Chu frowned slightly, although you once said that as long as you are willing to work hard, nothing can stop your growth, but the reason why the class of gods became a legend is because of its own reason. Chapter 671. The two instructors continued to lobby. Obviously they had made up their minds to get Yiqing Luo into the god class. The surrounding students were filled with envy. Yiqing Luo was indeed the freshman that the instructor liked. Two instructors. Especially the Academy's most impartial, cold and emotionless instructors, jointly wanted to send Yiqing Luo into the class of gods. What kind of honor was this? Even if Yiqing Luo wasn't able to enter the class of gods, her ability was recognized by these two stern-faced instructors. In the eyes of many students, he was an expert. Just as the students were envious, the two instructors were eagerly lobbying, and Yiqing Luo shook her head in rejection, this extremely peaceful atmosphere. Suddenly, a sharp shout resounded through the entire training ground. It's not fair. This is unfair. The steely green-faced Shengguan Liuli's face twisted malevolently, as he stared at Yiqing Luo with a venomous gaze. She wanted to see Yi-Ching Luo become a joke. She wanted to see the scene of Yi-Ching Luo failing in her pretentious act and instead being taught a terrible lesson by the instructors. In the end, how did Yi-Ching become the strongest in the students' hearts? He's just a piece of trash. Why should he be worshipped by these students? Were they all blind? At this very moment, Shangguan Liuli's heart was completely blinded by her hatred and resentment towards Yi-Ching Luo. No matter what Yi-Ching Luo did, in her eyes, there was an ulterior motive. Shangguan Liuli raised her hand and pointed directly at the two instructors. It's you guys. You guys intentionally went easy on her, intentionally helping Yi-Ching Luo, just to see me make a fool out of myself. You and that slut Yi-Ching Luo are in cahoots. Her hysteria caused the surrounding students to frown, their faces filled with disgust. This Shangguan Liuli was really pestering Yi-Ching Luo till death. She couldn't bear to see others doing better than her. Many people began to doubt the way the Shangguan clan taught their children. How did they raise such a brainless fifth miss? Be it the freshmen or the seniors, who in the academy didn't know that these two instructors were famous for being impartial? Who didn't know that they didn't give face to anyone? Purposely going easy. That battle just now wasn't a private challenge. It was an open and above-board battle with so many pairs of eyes. Couldn't they tell if the instructor had done his best? Does that look like he's going easy on me? Intentionally colluding with Yi-Ching Luo to see her make a fool of herself? Hee. Who did she think she was? If the instructor wanted to see her, Shangguan Liuli, make a fool of herself, he could do it with just one sentence. Why did he have to go through so much trouble to gather the other students to see her make a fool of herself? He thought too highly of himself. Shangguan Liuli, get out of here. Instructor Ho couldn't take it anymore and shouted with a gloomy face. Shangguan Liuli pursed her pale lips and clenched her fists. Her eyes were already stained with tears. Instructor He. This is favoritism. If I report this to the dean, you and Instructor Chu will not be able to live in peace. Are you threatening us? Instructor Chu narrowed his eyes and slowly walked towards Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli's body trembled, and she took a few steps back in fear. But when he thought about how he was an official student of the academy from today onwards, he no longer had to deal with the instructor of the freshman training. What was there to be afraid of? Thinking of this, Shangguan Liuli took a deep breath. I'm not threatening you. I'm just trying to reason with you. Reason? Yi-Ching Luo chuckled and caught a glimpse of a figure in the crowd from the corner of her eyes. Her long and narrow eyes hooked into a cold arc of ridicule. She took light steps, past the instructor and walked to the front of Shangguan Liuli. Every step Yi-Ching Luo took, Shangguan Liuli took a step back. Chapter 672. This was a kind of. It was an oppressive feeling that no one could hide from. Shangguan Liuli didn't want to admit that she was afraid of Yi-Ching Luo. But when she saw Yi-Ching Luo approaching her without saying a word, her heart became more flustered and confused. The truth that student Shangguan mentioned, is it the truth taught by the Shangguan family or is it the truth that student Shangguan has an outstanding innate talent and had an epiphany? Yi-Ching Luo smiled elegantly. Shangguan Liuli was slightly stunned, not understanding the meaning of Yi-Ching Luo's words. In the blink of an eye, Yi-Ching Luo was already standing in front of her. 5 steps away. Everything needs evidence. Student Shangguan thinks that Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu went easy on me and wanted to see you make a fool of yourself. Please show me the evidence first. Yi-Ching Luo's voice became colder. If you can't show me the evidence. Her voice paused, her slender brows raised slightly and looked at Shangguan Liuli with a faint smile. Student Shangguan, I can also complain to the faculty council, to the dean. Shangguan Liuli snorted coldly, complain. What can you complain about? Anyone with discerning eyes could tell that Yiqing Luo and the instructors were in cahoots. There was no need for any evidence at all. Yiqing Luo smiled and immediately raised her finger. First, as a student, you don't know how to respect your teacher. Second, you made irresponsible remarks, slandered the instructors, slandered the students. Just based on these points, according to the school rules, it is not as simple as recording a major demerit. You. Shengguan Liuli's eyes widened. You're talking nonsense. Whether I am talking nonsense or not, the instructors will testify, the students present will also testify. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers raised slightly, touched her pink lips and smiled enchantingly. You. Shengguan Liuli quickly turned her head and looked at the group of students. The students looked at her with eyes full of mockery, disdain, and annoyance. She then realized that from the beginning to the end, she was the only one who felt that there was a problem between the instructors and Yiqing Luo. These students had treated her as a fool. Student Shengguan, let me reiterate for the last time, this is not the Shengguan residence, nor is it a place for a rich missy like you to throw a tantrum. If you can't get used to the life here, then leave the Heavenly Academy as soon as possible. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked at Shengguan Liuli expressionlessly. Opportunities are always given to those who are willing to improve and work hard. If you don't need this opportunity, then give it to others who need it. With that, the corners of her mouth curled into a mocking smile, and she turned to leave. That mocking sneer pierced Shengguan Liuli's eyes. She was the fifth daughter of the Shengguan family. She was the favored fifth miss of the Shengguan family. He had never suffered any grievances. After arriving at the Heavenly Academy, on the first day, Yiqing Luo had been targeting her, causing her to suffer all sorts of grievances. Now, he still dared to laugh at her in front of so many people. Shengguan Liuli's chest was filled with a ball of anger that was constantly surging up. Looking at Yiqing Luo's departing figure, her eyes were filled with fury as she condensed profound qi into her palms and struck towards Yiqing Luo's back. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed, as the sneer on her lips grew thicker, even her body was emitting bursts of chilliness. The surrounding people screamed out, as they kept reminding her. She didn't dodge, as she minded her own business and walked on. Shengguan Liuli's attack instantly closed in on Yiqing Luo's back. A palm strike landed. Bam! Ah! Two loud sounds were heard, only to see a petite figure flying up into the sky, as it crashed heavily onto the ground. A mouthful of blood spurted out from the young lady's mouth. Chapter 673. Instructor Chu, Instructor He, please forgive me. This student's younger sister has been spoiled rotten at home. Her temper is out of control. She has disturbed the two instructors. I apologize to you on behalf of Liuli. This man was none other than the third young master of the Shengguan family, Shengguan Fangyi. Today was the last day of the freshman training. As a senior, Shengguan Fangyi naturally understood what this last day represented. He was instructed by the Shengguan family's patriarch to wake up early and rush to the training ground. His original plan was to discuss the issue of Shengguan Liuli's aptitude with the instructors after her performance on the last day of training, to increase her impression in the eyes of the instructors. After all, they were the Shengguan family. After all, Shengguan Fangyi was a senior in the high profound class. But what he didn't expect was, his sister had been embarrassed to such an extent. He didn't even have the courage to stand up and admit that she was his sister. Not only did she become the worst freshman in the hands of the instructors, she even reprimanded Yiqing Luo for colluding with the instructors after the battle. Shengguan Fangyi had always known that this sister of his was a spoiled little princess. But he had never thought that this spoiled little princess completely did not bring her brain with her. During the holidays, he repeatedly reminded Shangguan Liuli that the most important thing in the Heavenly Academy was to respect the teachers, and no matter what dissatisfaction she had with any masters, she must not show it. Go home and tell her father that they had their own way to avenge her. However, Shangguan Liuli didn't put his words to heart at all. On the last day of training, she had already poked such a big hole. If it wasn't to prevent Shangguan Liuli from making a bigger mistake and affecting the Shangguan family, he would absolutely not stand up and let Shangguan Liuli run her own course. If he didn't let Shangguan Liuli suffer a little, she wouldn't know the dangers outside the family. Towards Shangguan Fangyi's apology, the two instructors still had a gloomy face and didn't say a word. Without the instructor's approval, Shangguan Fangyi could only maintain his bowing posture and wait for the instructors to speak. This was a form of respect to the instructors. One bowed while the other two remained silent. The other students naturally didn't dare to make any sound. The atmosphere of the entire training ground was frozen. Student Shangguan. Seeing that no one spoke, Yiqing Luo opened her mouth to break the deadlock. This stalemate would only be a waste of time. The instructor didn't say a word, so Shangguan Fangyi could only bow his body and look sideways at Yiqing Luo. From student Shangguan's words, student Shangguan's logic must be taught by the Shangguan family. Yiqing Luo shifted the topic to the Shangguan family. The children of the big families were outside. If it was a good thing, he would naturally want to bring his family along so that he could bring glory to his family. But if it would affect their clan and bring shame to their clan, no one would be willing to involve their own clan. Just like now. No matter what, Shangguan Fangyi did not want to have anything to do with the Shangguan family. But Yiqing Luo apparently had no intention to let them off. I'm sure all the freshmen here are very clear that the Heavenly Academy is the best academy in the Nirvana realm and was chosen as the best academy. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a calm and indifferent smile as she first praised the Heavenly Academy before continuing. This is not only because our academy's students have become the top experts of the Nirvana realm under the guidance of the academy, and have made great contributions to the Nirvana realm. It is also because of the good atmosphere of our academy. Chapter 674. The surrounding students nodded in agreement. The other freshmen also nodded in agreement. They had just entered the school on the first day and had already heard of the most important rule, respect for the teachers. Because at least 2/3 of the students who entered the Heavenly Academy were either wealthy or respectable. Among these 2/3, another half of the students were highly talented and capable. These students had always been proud and arrogant, and there were quite a number of bad-tempered students. In order to prevent them from laying their hands on the teachers or disregarding the dignity of the elders, this rule was to forcefully brainwash all the students on the first day. It's impossible that Shangguan Liuli doesn't know this rule. Yiqing Luo said lightly, but Shangguan Liuli reprimanded the instructor in front of everyone for being lenient, reprimanded the instructor for collaborating with me, a freshman, just to make things difficult for her. Can I assume that Shangguan Liuli would have such thoughts and be arrogant and rude to the instructor, is related to the teachings of the Shangguan family? The moment these words were heard, the surrounding students immediately drew in a breath of cold air. Shangguan Fangyi's face was as black as charcoal, incomparably black. He almost couldn't catch his breath. As soon as he came up, he directly beat his own sister to the ground, and even injured her internal organs. This was a clear indication of his attitude towards her. Yiqing Luo was still aggressive. She even wanted to implicate the entire Shangguan family. Shangguan Fangyi had a feeling of resentment as he stared fiercely at Shangguan Liuli. He had long warned Shangguan Liuli not to have any conflict with Yiqing Luo before she was prepared. Shangguan Liuli couldn't see far ahead, but he could see clearly. If he rashly clashed with Yiqing Luo, he would be the one to suffer in the end. Look, now something happened. Shangguan Fangyi's breathing was heavy, as if he was trying hard to suppress the anger in his heart. Have you had enough? Just when everyone was silent, Instructor Ho looked at Yiqing Luo expressionlessly. These words seemed to be accusing Yiqing Luo of being unreasonable. But his tone was extremely calm, without any intention of blaming. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile, shrugged her shoulders and shook her head, but didn't continue to speak. She knew that Instructor Ho was standing on her side and thinking for her sake. The other party was after all from the Shengguan family. He also had his own faction in the academy. There was no need for Yiqing Luo to be so ruthless. Otherwise, if things really got out of hand, it wouldn't be beneficial to either side. Not only was it a waste of time, but it also affected his mood. Yiqing Luo shut her mouth and Instructor Ho looked at Shengguan Fangyi. I will hand this matter over to the director to handle. His words caused Shengguan Fangyi's face to turn green and white. Hand it over to the dean to handle. Wouldn't this cause the Shengguan family to lose face in front of the entire academy? If his father were to find out about this, not only would Shengguan Liuli be punished, even he would not be able to escape punishment. However, Instructor Ho was the one who said that. He didn't even have a chance to refute. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Shengguan Fangyi lifted his leg and kicked Shengguan Liuli. Hurry up and thank Instructor He. Shengguan Liuli was in so much pain that her face turned pale. Her delicate body trembled as she lay on the ground, unable to get up. Hearing her brother's words, all of the grievances she had felt immediately surged up. Tears welled up in her eyes as she wailed loudly, "Third brother." It was clearly them who teamed up. Ah! Before he could finish, Shengguan Fangyi kicked him again. Shengguan Liuli was in so much pain that she didn't even have the strength to speak. Chapter 675. Shengguan Fangyi didn't dare to make a sound after being reprimanded for a long time. He bowed his head and answered yes repeatedly, not daring to show any impatience. Since your brother is here, bring him directly to the faculty council to admit his mistake. Instructor Chu stepped forward and patted Instructor Ho's shoulder, indicating him to speak less. But he himself was not polite to Shengguan Fangyi's words. Punish him as you should, student Shengguan should understand the seriousness of the rules. The implication was to warn Shengguan Fangyi not to attempt to use his power behind the scenes to absolve Shengguan Liuli. I understand. Shengguan Fangyi gritted his teeth, endured the grievance and bent over to pick up Shengguan Liuli who was lying on the ground. Shengguan Liuli struggled and punched Shengguan Fangyi. This hammering was not just for fun. Instead, she gave Shengguan Fangyi's face a hard slap. She was venting the dissatisfaction in her heart, venting the grievance in her heart. Since young, even her father couldn't bear to hit her. Shengguan Fangyi dared to hit her and hurt her internal organs. He even kicked her when she couldn't move due to the pain. With resentment in her heart, Shengguan Liuli's attack was heavy and ruthless. Shengguan Fangyi held her in his arms, but he couldn't directly throw her on the ground in front of so many people. She dodged left and right, but still got hit several times. Shengguan Liuli. Stop it. Shengguan Fangyi couldn't bear it anymore and scolded in a low voice. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? How am I embarrassed? I just want fairness. Shengguan Liuli growled resentfully. Shengguan Fangyi immediately covered her mouth and apologized to the surrounding as he walked towards the entrance of the training ground. Shengguan Liuli. Just as they were about to walk out of the training ground, Yiqing Luo suddenly spoke and looked at the entrance indifferently. Shengguan Fangyi paused and turned his head. Yiqing Luo stood against the light in the training grounds and suddenly took a look. That brilliance had blurred that gorgeous face of hers. The entire training ground also fell into silence because of Yiqing Luo's words. If you are jealous of others' talent, then make yourself stronger. Only use your own suspicions to measure others, can only be the weak. Her clear and cold voice was sonorous and forceful with every syllable. Shangguan Liuli, who was still struggling to get out of Shangguan Fangyi's embrace, trembled. She looked over Shangguan Fangyi's shoulder at the girl standing against the light. His tear-filled eyes slightly dilated as anger surged up. Trash! What did you say, you, og? Shangguan Liuli's voice was sealed. She struggled but was no match for Shangguan Fangyi's strength. Shangguan Fangyi hurriedly hugged her, not daring to stay any longer. The training ground finally regained its original atmosphere. The surrounding students' gazes towards Yiqing Luo gradually changed. That's right, if you're jealous of others' talents, why not make yourself stronger? Blindly thinking that others were inferior to them, using their own thoughts to impose on others, to measure others, and then imagining that others were so powerful, there must be something wrong with them. With such thoughts, how could they truly improve? If he wasn't as good as others, then there must be something special about the other party. Even if someone really did something in the dark, to be able to succeed, that meant that the other party was outstanding. Just like what Shangguan Liuli said, if Yiqing Luo and the instructor collaborated, and intentionally let them win. Even if this matter was true, that was Yiqing Luo's ability, wasn't it? Chapter 676. Thinking of this, the students suddenly understood something. Student Yiqing Luo. Instructor Chu looked at Yiqing Luo's gaze with increasing admiration. Regarding the matter of going to class of gods, you should consider it carefully. This is a rare opportunity for you. This new student was completely different from the other freshmen. The more they looked at her, the more they felt that she was a gift from the heavens to the Heavenly Academy. Brave and resourceful, full of guts and a majestic aura. This kind of girl was much stronger than the guys. If she was placed in class of gods, with some training, she would definitely achieve a hegemony. In this strange world where the strong were respected, as long as she had enough ability, even if she was the queen, so what? No need to consider. Yiqing Luo shook her head. I know you are doing it for my own good, but in the devil class, I am fine. The two instructors saw that she insisted on not listening, looked at each other and frowned. But they also knew that Yiqing Luo had her own reasons for not accepting this opportunity, so they didn't continue to insist. The instructors looked around them. Because of Yiqing Luo, those freshmen who failed, did not leave directly. The instructors directly called for the freshmen to line up, said some final words, and let everyone remember what Yiqing Luo said earlier, and then announced the dismissal. Lu Xiaoyu rushed forward and held Yiqing Luo's arm. Her face was full of shock. Qing Luo, when did you become so powerful? Those are instructors, the two most powerful instructors among the freshmen. In this battle, Lu Xiaoyu could be said to be the most worried person. She roughly understood Yiqing Luo's character, and knew that Yiqing Luo would not do things that she was not sure of. But when she heard that Yiqing Luo wanted to challenge two instructors at the same time, she was still stunned. If you also want to have such skills, you can look for me during the school holidays. Yiqing Luo took Lu Xiaoyu and left the training ground together. The large group of students behind, all enviously looked at Yiqing Luo's departing figure. That elegant and refined, extraordinary aura, was much more stunning than the first school's flower. Yiqing Luo is really amazing. How did she do it? Yeah, I'm simply dumbstruck. A low-level profounder who clearly hasn't broken through to the mysterious profound realm actually possesses such formidable skills. It's too unbelievable. To be able to fight evenly with Instructor Chu, and to be able to fight evenly with Instructor He's help, how strong must he be to be able to do this? Right. Don't think that student Yiqing Luo was at a disadvantage earlier, but the two instructors obviously didn't gain any advantage. If that battle had continued, it's still uncertain who would win. Even though they still couldn't tell who won this challenge, they still couldn't tell who won. Among the students, there were high profound class students and faculty council students who had suffered losses in Yiqing Luo's hands. No matter what Yiqing Luo did, they were extremely dissatisfied and were unable to develop any fondness for her. Yiqing Luo was indeed a beautiful jade. From the moment she entered the academy, she had been shining and radiating her own brilliance. The more it was like this, the more self-proclaimed geniuses they hated Yiqing Luo. Because in their hearts, the idea that Yiqing Luo's name was equivalent to trash was deeply rooted. They weren't willing to admit that they weren't as good as Yiqing Luo. He was unwilling to admit that he couldn't even compare to a piece of trash. Chapter 677. That's right, what powerful, she's just a waste class student and you guys still treat her like a goddess, envy her and think she's powerful. Aren't you throwing the face of the low profound class? She's just a yellow profound 9th grade waste, so what if she's powerful? Release her profound chi, if she can't even dodge one move, she'll die. These high profound class students kept calling it low profound class and wastrel class. These students from the intermediate and low profound classes were all filled with anger after being insulted. But due to the strength of the high profound class students, they could only clench their fists and swallow this anger. Looking at the low and intermediate class students who did not dare to speak up, the high profound class students revealed a smug sneer. There were also those students from the faculty council, many of them were intermediate class students and they also laughed along with the high profound class students, as if the ones being ridiculed were not their classmates. This feeling made these students feel extremely uncomfortable. They suppressed their anger and turned to the entrance of the training ground. Can't provoke, can't they just hide? At this moment, a deep and low, mellow and cold voice came into everyone's ears. Poor weaklings, you still don't know until now. Sure enough, you can only be the parasites of the high profound class, living a mediocre life relying on the high profound class. This voice was extremely soft and slow. Every word was spat out very clearly. It resounded throughout the entire training ground and even rippled with echoes. Under the awe of this voice, everyone's body stiffened and looked towards the direction of the voice. On the second floor of the training ground, there was a man dressed in a white robe, standing proudly. This man was different from the other masters in the school, they all had the appearance of an old man. But it was an extremely young man. Especially, that man, he had a handsome face, as if he was meticulously sculpted with uncanny craftsmanship. His lines and contours were filled with elegance that made one's heart palpitate. The most eye-catching thing was his pair of peach blossom-like eyes. The corners of his eyes were long and narrow, and his thick eyelashes trembled from time to time, faintly revealing a bit of evil charm. When all the female students saw that face, they subconsciously clutched their chests, unable to shift their gazes away. There's actually such a handsome man in this world. Compared to the most handsome man in the school, Si Yen Mu, he was even more handsome. Who is he? He's wearing the uniform of our academy's teacher. How come I don't remember our academy having such a young teacher? Which class of teachers are they teaching? If he were the teacher teaching our class, I would definitely study hard and improve every day. What a handsome teacher. The female students couldn't contain their excitement as they stared at the man with adoration. The female students of the high profound class were not spared as well. They were completely mesmerized by this handsome face and did not notice that he was mocking them. The other male students quickly regained their senses after being shocked by the man's identity. There was even a tinge of jealousy in his eyes. Which class are you from? How come I've never seen you before? The young master chuckled and his peach blossom eyes were filled with a cold gleam. I heard that the Heavenly Academy respects teachers the most and the atmosphere is good. I didn't expect that a student from the high profound class could use such an interrogative tone to question a master. This has really opened my eyes. The few male students' faces turned ashen as they glared at the young teacher. Chapter 678. You're not even a teacher from the high profound class. Who are you? You have to prove that you're a teacher from our school. Otherwise, we will suspect that you're a spy from another school. A few male students patted the shoulders of the female students beside them. Why are you still being smitten? Didn't you hear him mocking us from the high profound class? We're all elites from the high profound class. Not being able to enter the class of gods means that we still have room for improvement. Who are you to say that we're parasites from the high profound class? One after another, the sound of cursing and argument. The training ground that had finally quietened down was once again filled with noise. Following that, a light chuckle could be heard. It was extremely light, but it suppressed the noise. It was the young teacher who was laughing. That smile made the contours of his face look extremely gentle. The curved peach blossom eyes made that face even more exuded a charm that could make one blush. Did I say anything wrong? The young teacher's hands were placed on the railing as he leaned his tall body on it. His posture was indolent and alluring. Students from the high profound class, not only do you have a bad character, you're also as dumb as a pig. Saying that, he sighed and shook his head helplessly. You! How could a proud and arrogant young man tolerate the provocation of a man who was more handsome than him? He immediately rushed towards the direction of the second floor. Then, he heard the man's light and leisurely voice. Who am I? Didn't you see that your instructors have not said a word? The male student stopped in his tracks and immediately turned to look at the two instructors. Only to see the two instructors standing at the side with a cold expression, looking respectfully at the young teacher on the second floor. That's right, respectful. Only then did the students realize that this young teacher's identity might not be as simple as a teacher. From the beginning to the end, the two instructors did not say a word. If this young teacher had really stolen the uniform of the school's teacher, the instructors would have rushed up to him. They were indeed as dumb as a pig. When the male students finally reacted, their anger was extinguished. Teacher Mo, these students are young and impetuous. If they have offended you in any way, I and old he would like to apologize to you. After the training ground became quiet again, Instructor Chu cupped his hands and bowed in the direction of the young master. The young teacher waved his hand. It's fine. I would like to thank these students for their passionate performance, allowing me to understand the atmosphere of the Heavenly Academy. The instructor's expression changed slightly. Their eyes met and he lowered his head. Master Mo, this is not what you see. This is a misunderstanding, I can explain, no need. Mo Zun's lips curled up as he squinted his peach blossom eyes. I don't want to make things difficult for both instructors, but these students from the high profound class really need to be disciplined. If they still have this kind of character after leaving the academy, it won't only be you guys who will be ashamed, but the entire Heavenly Academy. The instructors said in unison, Thank you for your teachings, Supreme Mo. At this moment, on the other side of the second floor, a few elders in white robes walked over quickly. Their foreheads were covered in sweat, but when they saw Senior Mo, their eyes lit up. They bowed respectfully and said, Teacher Mo, the headmaster is waiting for you in the headmaster's office to discuss the matter of entering the class of gods. Please follow me. Class of gods. Supreme Mo raised his eyes and looked at the instructors. Which class is the female student who tied with the both of you in? Instructor Chu was stunned. Devil class. Very well, then devil class it is. Supreme Mo's slender fingers caressed his smooth chin. Chapter 679. After Yi Qing Luo left the training ground, she followed Lu Xiaoyu to the new dormitory. The dormitory which was destroyed by those killers had already been filled up by the Academy's people during the 3 days holiday. Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo was assassinated in the Academy specially prepared all the daily necessities for her as an apology. After Yiqing Luo left, she called out Shi Ju and sniffed the surroundings, checking once to make sure that there was no problem with these daily necessities before she was assured. She couldn't be blamed for making a fuss over nothing. It was better to be safe than sorry. After all. Towards this director, Yiqing Luo had always been suspicious. Yiqing Luo felt that the director definitely had something to do with it. And what was the relationship between the director and that protector, as well as the so-called lord, she still didn't know. Who knew if the director would tamper with the daily necessities prepared for her in order to create a false impression of her sudden death? After Yiqing Luo took a bath, she changed out of her sweaty uniform and immediately soaked in the water. She drew a clean cloth and wiped her hair. When her gaze landed on the uniform in the water, her hands paused. Somewhere in her heart, there was a violent throbbing. A man dressed in a luxurious purple robe seemed to appear in front of her eyes, squatting in front of the wooden basin, his slender fingers, holding her smelly clothes, rubbing it tirelessly. That noble man, that high and mighty man, was doing the most ordinary thing between a husband and wife, for her. Because it was him, this kind of ordinary, was even more precious. Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. As she placed the wet cloth on her shoulder, she leaned against the bed and sat down. Was it? She missed him too much after not seeing him for a few days. Why, there was an extremely strong feeling in her heart, as though he was not far away from her. It couldn't be. Dmo Xian had already been chased to the imperial palace to recuperate. She had said that before his injury was fully healed, he was not allowed to come to the academy to look for her. With such a serious injury, it would take at least half a month for him to recover. At this time, it was impossible for Dmo Xian to appear in the academy. Yiqing Luo shook her head and suppressed her longing to the bottom of her heart. Grabbing the cloth on her shoulder, she dried her hair while walking towards the window, trying to divert her attention. She didn't realize that the profound phoenix ring on her finger and the flowing red light seemed to have sensed something as her heart raced. The red light seemed to have sensed something and started to wander around the ring. Outside the window was the flat ground where the women's dormitory hung their clothes. Looking at the rows of bamboo poles, they were all neat greenish-white uniforms, with the occasional small objects used by women mixed in. At this moment, there were a few female students hanging their clothes together. Have you guys heard that a student from the High Profound class went missing? Are you talking about that Su Rong from High Profound class 1 who is quite talented? That's right, that's him. This matter has been going on for a few days. I heard that he went missing in our academy. Didn't the academy say that student Su Rong voluntarily applied to leave the academy a few days before the holidays? Su Rong's parents have already come to the academy. They said that it was a holiday and they didn't see their son come home at all. A few female students gathered together. Naturally, it was inevitable to discuss the latest gossip. Yiqing Luo leaned against the window, her slender brows slightly knitted. She had heard of this Su Rong. Most of the students in the Heavenly Academy were either rich or respectable. Chapter 680. Because of his mediocre family background, in order to repay his parents, he worked extremely hard after he entered the academy. His innate talent was indeed not bad, he was not afraid of hardships and was willing to study hard. In a short span of 4 years, he successfully entered the High Profound Class 1. Because it was an inspirational thing. The other students would mention it from time to time. Yiqing Luo had also heard about it. Listening to the discussion of these female students, Yiqing Luo vaguely felt something was amiss. Su Rong had entered the High Profound Class 1 for less than a year. His profound grade was estimated to be around the 4th or 5th grade. She heard that there were many large families who were prepared to buy him over at a high price. Su Rong had yet to decide which force to pledge allegiance to. At this time, how could Su Rong withdraw from the academy? One must know that once he withdrew from the academy, without the halo of a high profound class student, he would not be that valuable. Yiqing Luo expressed that she could not understand this point. Speaking of this, I also thought of something. A female student lowered her voice and said mysteriously, "It seems that there are also 2 students in our class who withdrew from the academy. There are also students who withdrew from the intermediate profound class too. Are they crazy? It was not easy to get into the Heavenly Academy. After so many years of hard work, they want to withdraw from the academy. Actually, I don't know if you have heard of the rumors about the Heavenly Academy." Upon hearing the gossip, the few female students put down the clothes in their hands and huddled together. They heard the older female student whispered, "Rumor. Every holiday, there will be 2 or 3 students who withdraw from the academy." The other female students rolled their eyes. Isn't this a very normal thing? Students leaving the academy and new students coming in, this was a common thing in Xikong. This is indeed very normal, but what is not normal is these students who withdrew from the academy, many of their family elders came to the academy to inquire. They did not even return home during the holidays. The few female students dared not to say a word. After those elders came once, they did not come to the academy again. Everyone thought that those students had returned home, but the older female student carefully glanced around. Her voice was even lower. "This time when I went home, I heard from my mother that her cousin's child, after he withdrew from the academy half a year ago, until now, they have not returned. That is to say, after these students submitted their withdrawal application, there was no trace of them, in other words, missing." The female students were instantly dumbfounded, their eyes filled with fear. The atmosphere suddenly froze. While talking about this, the female students looked around and found that there was no one else around, giving off an eerie feeling. Frightened, they gathered up their clothes and left together. Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the window, frowned even tighter. She pulled down the cloth that was drying her hair and placed it on the table. She narrowed her eyes and carefully rearranged the conversation of those female students in her mind. For some reason, her mind inexplicably recalled the plan that the dean and the protector mentioned on the 2nd floor of the library pavilion that day. After these students applied to leave the academy, they disappeared without a trace. It was as if they had disappeared from this world. Could it be? Is it related to that so-called plan? This thought instantly made Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. The disappearance of those students was definitely not a coincidence. Moreover, every single one of them had voluntarily applied to leave the academy. Just as she had deduced before, generally speaking, those who were able to enter the intermediate profound class or even the high profound class, as long as they were noticed by other forces and wanted to be taken in as their own, their status would skyrocket. Who would choose to leave the academy at this time? There was definitely something wrong with this. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.